sits strangely close to Daniel Jones from the Giants. Daniel, is that you? Beat the Chiefs. Show me. If the Broncos and Russell Wilson can show me that they can beat the Chiefs, then I will start believing.
And the crowd up. And so on, this defense in Kansas City won't snap the ball again. The Denver Broncos have beaten the Kansas City Chiefs.
Dave Montgomery and the Lions, former Bear, gonna make this his revenge game for sure. David Montgomery gets the touchdown that ices the game. No! And there's a flag. There's flag. There's flag. There's flag. There's flag. Snap. Hold. Kick.
Denver wins! Denver wins! Let's go!
They open. No!
What happened? Oh shit.
Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the only football podcast tonight. We are 1 week away from NFL being back. But before that, we're going to talk about the deal that Brandon Aiyuk and the 49ers have just come to terms with. We are going to talk about Mike McDaniel also getting an extension with the Miami Dolphins. Some comments made from Brad Holmes, the Lions GM. Tom Brady having some limitations on broadcasting, what he can do, where he can go. And today we are going to finally predict who is going to win all of the NFC divisions. And of course, we're going to end it off with the Chives with Kyle. Let's get it. America is football. Football is America.
Football is America. And if you don't like it, you can kiss your candy ass on the moment in time. I don't give a damn. Oh my God.
No.
You love this.
30 to 27.
No.
Chiefs win. Chiefs win 30 to 20.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of the Only Football Podcast Friday, August 30th edition. My name's Kyle and that's Rick.
I'm Rick, that's Kyle.
Rick, this is our last Friday episode before NFL football officially begins.
Let's go.
Yes.
Let's go.
The drought is over. Football is here. And we get to this final week before football, and the football gods just give us a bunch of stuff to talk about. Some things we have been talking about that we're not going to spend too much time talking about because we have been beating this horse to death. The horse is dead. He's been buried, and it is time to raise him from the dead one last time. Brandon Aiyuk signs the deal with the San Francisco 49ers, a 4-year, $120 million contract. Rick, Brandon Aiyuk never wanted to be traded. He never did. He pretended he wanted to be traded to try to encourage the 49ers to make this deal finally happen. That's why he turned down deals with the Steelers. Apparently, the Broncos were involved in a 3-way trade with the Steelers. I think the Broncos didn't want to do it probably because they don't want to play Brandon Aiyuk week 2 with the Steelers. But regardless, that's all water under the bridge because finally the Aiyuk, as Bill says, the saga is over and Brandon Aiyuk will be a 49er. Does this mean that the 49ers are back to business as usual? Because we do know that the vibes have been a little weird this offseason. Normally you have this stuff happening in June, maybe July. We're not even a week before kickoff, and Trent Williams needs to be dealt with. CMC had a calf strain. Aiyuk wasn't. Like, is this just one piece that kind of brings some normalcy back for the 49ers week 1, or is there still some lingering stuff you're worried about?
I would say the what's his name? Trent
Williams.
Trent Williams, sorry. Trent Williams, that thing is still kind of like, God damn it, we got one more thing left. You know what I mean? Like that to me is still one of those like little annoyances that you deal with in everyday life, except it's one of the best interior offensive lineman in NFL history, or really of his generation, right? So it's tough. That's probably the biggest thing they have to deal with. The Brandon Aiyuk thing, again, this has been going on for pretty much as long as, I don't know, the off season has been for, the NFL. It's been going on for that long. So it is nice to finally get that thing, off of your list. It's honestly like, dude, I just compare it to my everyday life when I've got this really big thing I got to take care of, and things come here, things just get in the way. And then when I finally get rid of it, I was like, wow, that was just a huge weight off the shoulders. And I'm sure not only is the front office, the owners of the 49ers happy about this, but the fans and the teammates, I'm sure, are very, very happy about this. And this is very, very reminiscent of what Deebo Samuel did last season when we were talking about the same exact thing. I request a trade. I'm not going to sign. I'm going to wipe my social media of 49ers stuff. This is what happens, right? It looks like Brandon Aiyuk took the same page out of the book from his teammate, and now the only one left to get paid, really, I think at this point, is Jamar Chase, and that's not a San Francisco problem, so I'm sure they're very, very happy about that. But Brandon Aiyuk finally getting signed, like Bill said, again, the saga is over.
Yeah, and let's be real, training camp contract drama, nothing new for the 49ers. They've dealt with it now 3 consecutive years with Deebo Samuel last year, and then Nick Bosa holding out in 2023. Both of those were resolved, and so was this one. So the it's all over, and Deebo Samuel's back. Kyle Shanahan has his best receiver on the field, and more importantly, Brock Purdy has his weapon. I do think that when you looked at Brock Purdy in the preseason, people were like, "Oh, don't worry, he didn't look good." He didn't look good. And we saw Brock Purdy. Forget about the weapons. Brock Purdy without Trent Williams is an issue. Like, this team has a lot of talent on it, but in a weird way, they're all kind of reliant on each other. I mean, just look what happens when Deebo Samuel misses a game or two. Yeah. They all are very good in their own right, but they also need each other. So this is just one of those pieces back. Bill, like he said, Trent is on contract until 2026, but he is holding in, trying to get or is he holding in or holding out? I can't keep up with this stuff.
I got to double check.
Get a new deal? I didn't hear anything about it.
I don't think so.
I'm going to check really quick, and I don't want to give any false input here. Trent Williams contract status made clear after Brandon Aiyuk deal. I guess it doesn't, as of right now, I don't believe that they are close. Ian Rappaport said this morning on Good Morning Football. So, yeah, it is still a lingering thing.
And he is holding out.
He's holding out of sight and out of mind is what Rappaport said. But he knows what he's worth. He's racking up fines, but he also doesn't give a shit. So we'll see what happens. I mean, you saw last year there was a situation with Chris Jones, or the Chiefs defensive Chris Jones, right? And week 1, you saw how much they missed him, and they paid him by week 2. So don't be surprised if Trent Williams doesn't play week 1. And gets a little bit of extra money between week 1 and week 2, very similar to Chris Jones. But somebody that did just receive money, and something that was a little unexpected but not surprising, is
real quick. Sorry, real quick. Before we move on, I just want to ask you this question. Aiyuk got paid $120 million over 4 years, which makes him the 5th highest paid wide receiver. What do you think about that? Do you think that's fine? Because I feel like with receivers and quarterbacks and everybody getting contracted, this person, they always top the market, but Brandon Aiyuk didn't. And I never saw him. In my opinion, I've never really heard or read anything that said he wants to be the highest paid. I just think he wanted that extension. But what do you think about, the 120 being 5th highest paid?
I think it's very fair. I think it's fair for everybody. okay, we'll put it this way. A lot of times when somebody gets paid, they do reset the market. It's not necessarily the best player is the highest paid. It's just whoever's in line at that particular moment. As Stephen A would say, that particular moment in time. I just went on a Stephen A thing. But at that particular moment in time, we all get that. But when you have a guy that's clearly not the best in the NFL, I don't think it's fair for both parties. If you're going to meet somewhere in the middle, it's like, hey, how does top 5 sound? You're not going to reset the market. You know who else didn't reset the market? CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb didn't reset the market when he arguably could have. He got pretty close, only $1 million less annually per year than who was it that just reset? Justin Jefferson.
Justin Jefferson, yeah.
I can't keep up with these guys, man.
I know.
But I mean, they did something similar with Amon-Ra St. Brown. They're like, we really like you. We think that you're one of the better wide receivers in the NFL. But how does $120 million sound? That's what they did with Amon-Ra St. Brown. The difference is the Detroit Lions did it right away and washed their hands, and it was done. This had to linger on for a long time. And I mean, same thing with the Cowboys. It's just like, you're going to pay him. Just freaking do it already. But I thought that this was kind of a fair middle ground. I think any less would have been an issue because I do think other teams would have had no problem paying him $120 million.
Yeah.
Once you start talking about wanting to reset the market, I just don't think that the value's there. I think Brandon Aiyuk is a very good wide receiver, and he's being paid like one.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. Like you said, he's a very good wide receiver. Top 5 sounds great. I bet he's looking at that number because I heard it's front loaded. He gets like $76 million guaranteed. And I agree with you. Like top 5 is pretty damn good for where he's getting paid. Like eventually, I think over these next 3-4 years, these next couple receivers that are going to get paid, he's going to get bumped down a bit. But to be honest, he got paid regardless for his production. Like you said, I think it's more than okay. Honestly, if he was top 10, I would still agree with that. If he was like 7th, 8th, something like that, I would still agree with that. But I just figured, not getting, wide receiver setting market type of money would have been his like want in this.
Right.
But
well, think about this. I mean, if you're a top 5 receiver, you get paid as the best normally because you reset the market. So if you're top 5, think about quarterbacks. If you're a top 5 quarterback, when it's time for you to get paid, you're going to reset the market. Yeah. So that means if you do the math, if you're a top 10 wide receiver, then you don't reset the market. You're not top 5, but you do get paid like you're top 5 because you were in line. So I think this falls just almost perfectly. If anything, Amon-Ra St. Brown is being underpaid.
Okay.
Amon-Ra St. Brown, I mean, he could have reset the market. The Lions were really smart for just putting the carrot in front of him and saying, here's $120 million. You want to take it? And he was like, yeah, I'm good with that. I mean, they got a lot of people that they got to pay, but they did it the right way. I think if you're the Lions, you feel like awesome that he was willing to take that. But Brandon Aiyuk, on the other hand, I don't think he's underpaid, if that makes sense.
Totally agree. You got Deebo Samuel, you got George Kittle there, you got CMC. I think he falls right in line. I think he's still one of their top weapons, but like you said, I totally agree with that. And Bill, I've got Leinenkugel Summer Shandy.
Wisconsin beer. Go Packers.
Boo! I haven't had this since I was in Chicago, and I want to say probably more than 4 years ago. We found it at Costco, and we could not have been happier to find that. So I'm drinking a little Summer Shandy because summer's almost over, but it's not over yet.
It's pumpkin season, baby.
It's pumpkin season, baby. But let's get into the next topic, Kyle. Sorry I cut you off. Please continue.
It's all good. So a little bit surprising, a little bit unexpected, not surprising. Dolphins head coach Mike McDaniel gets signed to a multi-year contract extension. Of course, right off the bat, I'll just say Mike McDaniel is one of the best coaches in the NFL. Regardless of the fact that they haven't been able to win a playoff game and the very poor record against playoff teams, Mike McDaniel is not someone you move off of. And we make this point a lot on the podcast. Like, okay, Dolphins lose in the first round against the Chiefs, and all the fans are like, fire McDaniels. I mean, who are you replacing Mike McDaniels with? It's one thing to want someone fired. It's another thing to not have anybody better to replace. Mike McDaniel is one of the best offensive minds in the NFL, and he has found a way to make Tua one of the most effective quarterbacks in the league. When Tua was, I mean, we just heard the story with Brian Flores, and what are you even doing here? I mean, who says that to their quarterback? What do you do here?
It's like, you suck. You can't be a quarterback. And then Mike McDaniel comes in and he's like, you're the best for this position. And he's like, I like this guy.
So, I mean, no surprise. If you get the coach right and you get the quarterback right, you can win a Super Bowl. And they just paid Tua. So the Dolphins believe that they have the quarterback right. Well, the quarterback is only right for the coach. So if the quarterback's right, then the coach is right. And that's why they signed McDaniels to a 4-year contract in Miami, putting him under contract through 2025 after 11 years of working with Kyle Shanahan, including 1 year as the 49ers offensive coordinator. And the coach promised to bring a revved up offense to Miami, and he's delivered through 2 seasons. Going into his 3rd season, Miami's made back-to-back playoff appearances. They played a really close game with, God, what was that quarterback? Skylar Thompson. In Buffalo, a really tough place to play. I mean, last year, it is what it is. It was one of the coldest games ever. Really tough to play football with your track team in those conditions. But I mean, there's nothing about Mike McDaniel that makes you want to move off of him. The organization, they have an identity, and even if there's something to be desired, you have to keep in mind, like, not everybody gets to have a Patrick Mahomes. Like, that's just not the NFL. They want Mahomes, but there's not 10 Mahomes. So get your Tua Tagovailoa and be happy with it. It's like that J. Cole song, Love Yours. He's like, there's always going to be a bitch that's better than yours. Always going to be a whip that's better than yours, but you're never going to be happy until you love yours. You need to just be like, Tua is our quarterback. Mike McDaniel's our head coach. We are not on the quarterback or coach carousel, and we're going to be happy. We're going to love ours. We're going to pay ours, and we're going to make a long-term commitment. The identity of Miami is there. So many teams out there, they have no identity. You can't say that about Miami. So I like the direction they're headed in. Whether they win a Super Bowl or not, at least you know that you're competing for one.
Yes, and it's obvious that they're competing for one because they've been to the playoffs 2 years in a row, 2 years that Mike McDaniel has been the coach. And just to kind of, give you guys an idea as to how much has changed, right? Like, Mike McDaniel has gone 20-14 in both of his seasons. If he lasts 2 more seasons as a head coach, he will be where does it say here? Oh, man. Damn it. I just had it. Okay. If McDaniel lasts 2 more seasons, he will be the first coach to finish 4 full seasons with the team since Dave Wanstead back in 2000 and 2003. Funny enough, 2000, 2001 were the last time that the Dolphins made the playoffs in consecutive years. So this is just, again, you brought up the playoff game against the Chiefs, and people are like, fire McDaniel. It's like, how the fuck are you going to fire the only guy who since 2000 and 2001 has taken you to the playoffs in consecutive years?
Yeah.
The Dolphins have been a laughingstock since 2000, 2001, or 2004, really, when they started off 1-8, and that coach, Dave Wanstead, resigned. They have been nothing but a laughingstock until Mike McDaniels has come in. And again, the fact that, fans are saying that, it's like, I would kill for a Mike McDaniel, prior to everything else. But also, we have to look at what he's done too. The Dolphins have ranked 6th in 2022 and 1st in 23 last season in total yards. They went from 11th in 2022 to 2nd last year in total points since McDaniels has arrived. You got Hill, you got Waddle, you got Tua Tagovailoa, all extended, all have their contracts. Why not keep the guy who has created this offense, who was one of the most elite offenses or one of the highest scoring, highest yardage offenses last year? Of course you're going to keep him, right? Like, it only makes sense. So for him to be extended, like you said, it was unexpected news, but it's not surprising. It's almost like, okay, yeah, that's a very, very good move by this organization.
Yeah, and you mentioned the offense. Miami hasn't ranked inside the top 10 in any category defensively, which has been the biggest concern. And as the head coach, it is your job to take care of both sides of the ball. A lot of times, defensive coaches, I mean, their defense is good, but they can't get the offense right, and vice versa for the head coach or for offensive coaches. But look at some of the head coaches, like offensive head coaches. Look at Sean McVay. You wouldn't say the Rams have a great defense. Look at Matt LaFleur. Packers didn't have a great defense. They're maybe 15th or somewhere around there. Look at how the Bears ended the season under Matt Eberflus. Look at the Jets with Robert Saleh. Look at Mike Tomlin and, the Steelers defense. So, I think there's a little wiggle room here where it's like your defense doesn't have to be top 10, but it has to be at least pretty good. And they're on their third defensive coordinator in 3 years. And you heard what Vic Fangio said when he left. And now Vic Fangio is the best defensive coordinator probably in the league right now. And the Dolphins had him, and he's gone. And why is he gone? Well, he said he's gone because he said that the culture in Miami, he's an old school head coach, and the team's out partying, and they're at, the 11, and they're at all the places that I used to go to. Like,
Kyle's like, I know where they're at.
I know exactly where they're at. He needs his players to, for what it's worth, Vic Fangio pretty much said that the players they weren't taking it serious enough. And this is an issue with any major city. I mean, if you're playing in Chicago, LA, New York, now Las Vegas, these are going to be issues. And Vic Fangio, kind of an old school head coach, it wasn't jiving with him, but Mike McDaniel kind of wears it good. He goes to the Heat games and he's on the floor, and he's chatting up with the players, and Tyreek Hill's at the game, and him and Tyreek are talking on the Miami Heat court. It's like Vic Fangio just didn't fit into this, and that's all great. Like, that Mike McDaniels is like a cool head coach. I love it. I think if I was a head coach, like, a lot of his characteristics would probably be me, but at the same time, like, when push comes to shove, like, you got to be good at your job, and the defense has to get better. I mean, it is his responsibility to make sure that this is a good team, not just a great offense. And I'm sure he knows that better than anybody. So it'll be interesting to see how Anthony Weaver does taking over for Vic Fangio. But that, I guess, if you're like a super skeptic, that's the one thing you're like, this team's got to kind of take a season to just focus, maybe not go out as much, maybe just kind of be behind the scenes, is not the story of the NFL. I mean, look at how the Hard Knocks series affected the Jets last year. Salah's come out and said it's really nice not to have cameras everywhere. I mean, I think Miami, it's tough, but they need to have that kind of a season where they just kind of focus in a little bit and start playing better defense and just coming to work. It is a job. You can't. The thing is Tyreek Hill, there's so much raw talent that you could almost see a scenario where Tyreek Hill does just kind of show up on Sundays and still is the best player on the field, whether he was in the film room or not. Just get him the ball in open space and he's going to make a big play.
100%.
But we've seen that kind of vibe in other places. Remember the Dallas Cowboys with Michael Irvin and the Bad Boys. But there comes a time where you got to kind of reel it in, and that's going to be Mike McDaniel's job this year, is to reel this team in, reinstill that focus, and win a freaking playoff game.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing hanging over his head right now is, again, cool. You can name off stats, right? Like I did. They went from this to this, 2022 to 2023, Mike McDaniel's 2 seasons in terms of offense. Now make that mean something. We can brush off the Skylar Thompson quarterback starting off the wild card game, right? We can probably brush that off, and especially against the Bills at that time. And we can definitely look at the game they had against the Chiefs, the coldest game of the playoffs last season. And your quarterback has 199 yards. There's snow falling. It's a freaking Arctic out there. Like it was ridiculous. So I think we can look at those and be like, all right, they definitely they needed a crutch somewhere. They're limping into these games, right? Because of certain circumstances. But yeah, like you said, round them back up, get them refocused on what they need to do, how they need to execute. But you're right. The defense is one of them, as well as injuries to their players.
I was going to say injuries.
Yeah, injuries is one of the big things too. I mean, we talked about Tua as well. One of the reasons you had Skylar Thompson playing a playoff game is because Tua would not stop getting concussions, right? Like he would just continually get them throughout that 2022 season. Finally, he learns how to fall. You've still got injuries throughout the year, especially to the defense too. Bradley Chubb being one of the guys, you just acquired him, so it's tough to really kind of string together all of this when one of your guys that you got through a trade, who you were expecting to be a huge production guy, gets injured. So injuries has to be one of them. I mean, maybe they have to look at, maybe not necessarily a defensive head coach, but a conditioning guy, a strength coach, some of these guys who can get these players back and ready to play football. But I still agree with what you're saying. Refocus, gather up and focus on the goal of winning that Super Bowl, or at least at this point, winning a playoff game.
Yeah, and that's kind of the expectations right now for the Dolphins. And there's a couple teams, I'd say there's a handful of teams that are legitimate, like Super Bowl contenders. And there's only a handful. Then there's like that next wave where even teams that you think could win the Super Bowl, I'll put like the Texans in this category. You'd still be a little surprised, just a little bit. Like if I told you the Texans win the Super Bowl, I knew I came from the future and I told you that, you'd be like, really?
Yeah.
Like
I'd be like, no way.
Yeah. But it's like, even though they did so well, there's a little surprise. Like if it said the Chiefs or the Ravens or the Niners, you'd be like, okay.
Yeah. I get that.
So there's a handful of teams that you feel differently about. Maybe even the Bills are in that category because Josh Allen's been so good for so long. But one of the teams that is not shying away from these expectations is the Detroit Lions. And Brad Holmes, not afraid to say it, the Lions 2024 expectations are to win the Super Bowl. And we see a lot of coaches, no matter how good you are, they'll say that's always the expectation. And it's like, okay, well, are you saying that you're going to win it? I don't like predicting. Well, for the first time in decades, the Lions verbalized aspirations that actually jive with their potential. They're coming off their first division title in 30 years. They won a playoff game last year. And Brad Holmes was asked Thursday what his expectations were for 2024. And he said, for this season, win the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And winning the Super Bowl is every team's goal. But like I said, not every team legitimately can do it. I think the Lions could do it this year, but Brad Holmes coming out and saying it. First off, what do you think about the Lions winning the Super Bowl this year? And second off, what's your take on a general manager putting that, I guess, positive pressure? Is it positive pressure on the team? Because some GMs, no matter how good they are, John Lynch isn't talking like this for San Francisco.
Right.
So it is kind of a different, I don't want to say strategy. It's not a strategy. It's just a different philosophy. I'm just going to verbalize how I feel. It's not always the best to just speak your mind, but Brad Holmes is doing it right now.
Yeah.
Do you have any issues with him? Because I don't know. I mean, the expectations is not a prediction, is it?
Yeah.
I mean, the expectations. I was just talking about this on my channel. So the expectations means you expect it to happen.
Yeah.
Right. It's
or at least get there.
Right. It's not what you want to happen, and it's not what you don't want to happen. It's what you expect to happen. So if I expect something to happen, then I'm predicting it. If I expect somebody to come over tonight, I'm also predicting them to come over tonight.
Hint, hint.
So predicting and expecting, in my opinion, are the same thing. So I'll just say it. Brad Holmes predicted to win the Super Bowl this year. I don't care that it says his expectations are to win the Super Bowl. To me, it's the same. So do you think that that's a good thing for a GM to predict a Super Bowl win before the season kicks off?
I really don't think so. I really do not think so. Because look, we can see Brad Holmes, the moves he's made since he's been the GM. They've been great moves for the Lions. I mean, for the Lions to have to trade Jared Goff, and to be honest, I'm not even sure if Brad Holmes has been the GM for that long. I don't know if he was
because that was his first move, because he came from the Rams and he basically got to Detroit and he was like, I still want Jared Goff, because he drafted Jared Goff with the Rams, and then he moved to the Lions and then wanted his quarterback that he drafted.
Yeah, 2021 was executive vice president. Wait, didn't they win in 2020? No, it was 2021. Yeah, you're 100% right, because I'm looking at the Wikipedia as you were saying that, and I was like, yeah, it is 2021. That was the year. So for that to be his first move, I mean, as a Lions fan, you're probably like, what the fuck? You're giving up our best Lions player for the last, I don't know, 7-8 years or something like that for a number 1 overall pick who has proven that he can't win the big game. And then all of the other moves that follow after that just prove him right. Like, yes, he hasn't won a Super Bowl, but the Detroit Lions just last year, they hosted a playoff game for the first time since 1990 or whatever it was.
Yeah, 1990.
Yeah, and they won convincingly, and they got all the way to the NFC Championship from a year removed from not necessarily looking like a playoff contender. Maybe early middle of the season they were back in 2022, but we were all like, the Lions are coming. Get ready for the Lions. And that is a credit to Brad Holmes. The thing is, I don't know if I love GM saying its expectations are Super Bowl. I could see that from a coach. I could see that from the quarterback. I could see that from the team's number 1 wide receiver, the team's number 1 defensive player. Totally see that. The GM, though, now, you put that type of pressure, whether it be a positive or to an extent negative pressure on the team, you are now responsible for making sure, one, that team stays together, which the Amon-Ra St. Brown signing was great. Laporta picks, all these picks have been great picks, Jahmyr Gibbs and whatnot. But now you have set those expectations, and now the fans, if you don't meet those expectations and you start to make moves that makes your team worse, that makes you look like you don't know what you're doing, they're going to bring this quote back and they're going to spring it on you. What happened to those expectations back in 2024? Why aren't you making these moves that coincide with what you expect this team to do? So I think it's good and bad. Personally, I don't know if I would want the GM to be saying something like that as a player. I would want, as a player, to put that pressure on myself. Because even God, why can I never remember the Lions coach? Dan Campbell. Yes. Even he said after last year, hey, it's hard to get to the NFC Championship. It is hard. It's even harder to go to a Super Bowl. And what's even harder than that, the hardest thing, is winning that Super Bowl. So they did a lot. They went very far last year. To redo that, it's going to take the same amount of effort. They got to win games during the regular season. They got to do it convincingly, and they've got to pray that these guys that they have on the team now just continue going through the motions, and kind of what we were talking about with the Dolphins and Mike McDaniel. focus on that goal that Brad Holmes has just set for your team.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with it. And the reason I don't have a problem with it the reason I don't have a problem with it is because the Lions beat the Packers week 18. And the Packers, they were robbed of their playoff appearance because of it. Right? And that was Aaron Rodgers' last game with the Packers. Right? 30-37 January 9th, 2022.
Thumbs up, baby.
You look at that season, that 2021 to 22 season, right? And it was like the Dan Campbell, Brad Holmes acquisition and Jared Goff. It doesn't work right away, right? The Lions are, I think, 0-6, and Justin Tucker's kicking 64-yard field goals to win. Like, the way the Lions were losing these games were absolutely heartbreaking, and it was happening week after week after week after week after week. And it was like, how is this happening? I'm talking like game-winning touchdowns with no time left. Like, that's the most absurd thing. And you're just like, oh my God. You actually started to feel bad for the Lions because you were like, you got Dan Campbell crying on the podium. And he's just like, I just know like how hard my players are playing. And you could see it. Like when you watched the Lions play, it was not like they were not your typical 0-5, 0-6 team. They were really good. They just somehow lost these games in the weirdest ways. And then they beat the Packers. They kind of turn the switch. Their defense goes from being ranked like 30th in passing yards to 15th. And then the Lions go on a win streak. And then they beat the Packers week 17 or week 18. Aaron Rodgers and the Packers missed the playoffs. Then the offseason happens. They draft Jahmyr Gibbs. And then all of the expectations now were that the Lions are going to be good. Now, keep in mind, the year before, the Lions they were good, but their record didn't show it. So the Lions had this expectation all of the offseason that this was going to be their big year. My buddy, when I was at the Warrior games, he was a huge Lions fan. I even interviewed him on this channel. And I was talking to him, and he was just telling me, oh, we're going to be so good. So, like, they had those expectations for a team that's never been to the playoffs in 30 years. Their entire fan base and the entire organization and even the national media was saying that the Lions were going to be good. And the Lions didn't disappoint. They didn't. They came out and they beat the Chiefs week 1 in Kansas City. And they proved everybody right. They were like, yeah, they're not the same old Lions. But it had yet to be seen. And then they go on what happened last year. They're up 17 points in the NFC Championship game. They fall apart, their worst third quarter of the whole year, and they miss it. But what does it all mean? It means that the Lions were playing with expectations all of last season, and they didn't disappoint us. So if you're following this trajectory that is constantly going up, now they have playoff experience. Now the team actually believes, like, where is this going to? Well, it can only go to one more place because they're up 17 in a conference championship game. The next logical step is a Super Bowl. Am I worried about the team that's already proven that they can handle those expectations? I'm not. And I think anything less of a statement out of Brad Holmes' mouth would be a lie. Like, we all know that the expectations are for the Lions to win the Super Bowl. Yeah, that's the expectation. So I think go ahead and just say it. The team's proven that they can handle it. And it's just one of those things. It's like, you know it, I know it. So who cares? You know?
Yeah. Again, the GM thing to me, it's like, again, you've done all these moves as the GM, and they've been nothing but really good moves, but now you've got to continue those good moves. And really a lot, they could have been risks. Amon-Ra St. Brown could have been bad. Jahmyr Gibbs could have gotten injured and would have never played football again, right? Like, some of these are luck. Some of these are like, fuck it, let's roll the dice. Because really, at the end of the day, that's what the draft is. You're rolling the dice. It's a crapshoot. You never know with any of these players. So again, GM needs to. What's that?
Oh, I was just the last thing I was going to say was that their defense last year, the worst part about their team was their passing defense, and then they used their first 2 picks on cornerbacks.
Yes.
So, I mean, you take a team that is up 17 in a conference championship, and then you bolster its weaknesses, and I mean, you only added to the team. I honestly, I don't know how you could have a team more favorited than Detroit this year. I mean, I didn't pick them to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
But honestly, it's like, why not? Like, what is it about the Lions that, I mean, the vibes in Philly are like, okay, it's hard to trust a team after they fall apart, even though I think they're going to be good this year. And I think they fixed all of their stuff. Vic Fangio's over there. They drafted corners. They're going to be good. But I mean, are they going to go back to the Super Bowl immediately? I don't know. Is Jordan Love going to take his team to the Super Bowl? He could make that step, but the Lions did it last year. So logically, the Lions are a little bit ahead of the Packers. Do you trust the 49ers after Kyle Shanahan has just kept losing these like important games?
Decisions.
The Lions have they're like the safest team. Like if you needed one team to at least represent a conference in the Super Bowl, I think the Lions are almost the safest team that you could go with this year.
That's, I don't know. I wouldn't start the season off going, yeah, I got Lions Super Bowl.
Lions Texans, book it.
Kyle's like, fucking put $5 on it right now. You're going to win.
What world are we living in?
Lions Texans. God, you would have never thought that. But I don't know. For me, they still got to prove that they can beat the 49ers, the Cowboys. Look, the Cowboys are just unlucky. They suck in the playoffs, and they've got to take that stink off them too. But they've still got a lot of weapons on there. They just paid one of the best wide receivers in the NFL mad money. You still got the 49ers paying 2 of their receivers in the last couple of years. Still have Brock Purdy as their quarterback for another I think another year or so under his rookie contract before they have to give him his 5th-year extension or re-sign him, whatever. That's going to be a big payday.
Yeah.
You got to beat these guys. Even Green Bay is looking formidable. I mean, they've got I don't want to say necessarily an unproven wide receiver room. They're proven in the fact that they can produce and they're younger. It's just, I don't know. They don't really have a number one. Could that be an issue, right? So they've got that to go over. The Eagles, them as well. The NFC South, maybe nothing really. Maybe Atlanta, maybe Tampa Bay have some sort. I mean, we saw what Baker was able to do against the Eagles last season in the playoffs. So maybe those could be guys that are coming up, right? I wouldn't necessarily go Lions first pick. Like, honestly, still first pick for me, it's probably the 49ers. But we'll get into that here in a bit once we go into divisions.
December 30th, you're going to get Lions 49ers week 17. So that'll be a glimpse of what we might see in a couple weeks after that. So really, really excited about that. And honestly, you and I disagree about the Brad Holmes comment, but I think we can both agree that the Lions are going to be pretty good this year.
I disagree. Just being that guy who disagrees with everything. Like, nope, I disagree.
Disagreeing.
No, I agree. Yeah, for sure.
So Rick, did you want to jump into the NFC or do you want to talk about the Chargers paying somebody?
Ooh, let's talk about the Chargers paying somebody.
Yeah, so the Chargers, we don't give kickers enough credit. Yeah. They don't get enough headlines, but
until they fuck up. Until they fuck up.
What a name, right? Dicker the Kicker.
Dicker the Kicker.
Now, real quick, if your name was Dicker the Kicker, would you lean into that? Or would you be like, God, I'm Dicker the Kicker? Like, how do you feel about that nickname?
I'm leaning into that 100%, especially if I'm like one of the better guys, like if I end up having a career like Justin Tucker has, or some of these other kickers, Robbie Gould comes to mind because he was an awesome kicker for the Bears and then again for the 49ers. Like,
making it all about the Bears.
Always about the Bears, baby. With Dicker the Kicker is my nickname, you're goddamn right. I'm leaning into that 100%. So yeah, I like it, man. I like it.
Well, you're right. I mean, if you're the best at what you do, or even one of the best, like, you could be anybody and it works. He was nicknamed Dicker the Kicker. The former Texas Longhorn began his NFL career as an undrafted free agent. So this guy has a story. He has a long path. And we're kind of seeing this with kickers lately, aren't we? You got Aubrey in Dallas, who nailed a 66-yard field goal in preseason, which was Justin Tucker's record. This guy was nobody just a year ago. Like, nobody knew who he was. He gets signed from the UFL or whatever it is. What is that called? The UFL?
USFL?
Yeah, I thought there was an S in there. Whatever. You're getting these kickers that just kind of come out of nowhere now. And I love it. I think it's great for the game of football in general. I think it's great for kids that have dreams of being in the NFL. Like, not everybody gets the opportunity to go to college. Not every college. You think about this for a second. If you're really good defensive tackle, I mean, even if you're top 100 in your state, you're going to play college football somewhere. Even if you're not the starter, you're going to be the backup or third string or maybe practice squad. The rosters are much bigger in college. But how many teams are putting multiple kickers on their active roster? No, nobody is, right?
Zero.
So you got one position available. So it's just such a there's such a limited demand for kickers that if you don't go to college for kicking, you almost feel like you just don't have a chance to get into the NFL. And if a college football team around your area where you're going to college already has their kicker, then it's like, hey, we already got our kicker. We don't need two kickers. Sorry.
Yep.
So I love that there's these other paths now where it's like, you could go put a YouTube video out there of you just knocking 60-yard field goals and you'll get a phone call.
100%.
UCFL or fucking XFL or whatever, international football. You could be a rugby player. It just doesn't matter anymore. A soccer player, you're seeing soccer players get into it. And then, of course, my favorite, an undrafted free agent. So I love the stories that come along with these kickers that weren't, in college or the typical story. The Chargers permanently wanted to replace Dustin Hopkins with Dicker, and Dicker's been nothing but consistent with his time for the Chargers. I got some numbers here. He has perfect marks from 20 to 39 yards, 28 for 28. He's only missed one 40 to 49-yard field goal, 15 of 16. So it's like, I say he missed only one, but it's like, out of how many, right? He only missed one, attempted two. No.
No, but he only missed one. That's it.
No, but 16 attempts, a pretty good sample size. So 15 of 16, and then 7 of 10 from 50 plus yards out. And he's also a perfect 59 for 59 on extra points. Like, look, if you're 59 for 59 extra points, your money between 40 and 49, and you're shooting 70% from 50 yards out, there's nothing left to be said. Like, pay the damn guy. You don't want to be that team where the game's on the line and the kicker runs out and you're like, fuck, why do we still have this guy? Like, I've been there where you're like, I know he's not going to make the kick, because why would he? He sucks. It sounds brutal, but if you've been there as a fan base, like, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So whenever you have that guy running out in the field and he's just poised and calm and stretching his leg, and you're just like, oh, we're going to win. It's such a good feeling. The Chargers have that with Dicker the Kicker, so I'm happy he gets paid.
Yeah, like you said at the very beginning of this, it's we don't pay kickers enough respect, give them enough airtime unless they fuck up. And this is one of those, like you said, that is very much, very much requires that like spotlight, because like you said, you named all the numbers. He's been doing really well. We talk about guys like Justin Tucker, Janikowski. What's the other guy on the Raiders right now? Carlson, I believe. Like, these guys are good because you never know when you're going to need a very good kicker until the time comes to kick a game-winning field goal. Look at who was the Patriots kicker in the 2000s who made like 3 game-winning field goals in the Super Bowl?
No, not Janikowski. It was
not Janikowski. Was it Vanderjagt?
Veterinary.
Oh yeah, Vinatieri. Like, those are the moments that you're like, thank God we have this guy. Thank God that we paid this guy. And I think Dicker the kicker is going to be one of those guys, especially in a year of transition for the Chargers, where you got Jim Harbaugh as head coach. Great. You've still got Justin Herbert as quarterback. Awesome. Your wide receiver room is still somewhat of a question mark. Palmer is probably your best guy. Quentin Johnson has not shown like any consistency. So more often than not, I think, especially with I don't know who their running back. It's Gus Edwards and somebody else, and J.K. Dobbins. No, in LA, in the Chargers. That's their running backs right now.
Yeah. Wow.
So a lot of like question marks in terms of the offense. You're down there. You just paid your kicker. Why not let him kick the field goal? So I feel like a lot of this upcoming season for the Chargers is like, yeah, we have Herbert, but we just paid our kicker. Let's let him get some points, and then we're going to kick off. You know what I mean? So again, he deserves it. You never know when you're going to need a good kicker until that time comes, and the Chargers were early on that.
Yeah, I hope he misses every kick that he attempts this year.
I was like, I fucking hate this guy.
But we do have I just want to take a quick moment. I don't know if we've ever had Karen Hardy in here, but happy to have her in.
Yeah.
Her, him, whoever you are, we're happy that you're in here. And he or she says Chargers will be better with a good coach this year. And I've been saying it. Jim Harbaugh is going to turn this franchise around, not in a couple years. I think this is going to be immediate. And I think the Chargers are going to win more than 7-8 games this year.
Okay.
The AFC West is going to be tough this year. I think the Raiders are the one team that you're not worried about. I mean, national media is not worried about Denver or the Raiders or the Chargers, but this is not national media. I think the Chargers and Broncos are going to be feisty. They're going to be very difficult opponents week in and week out, and the Chiefs are going to be the Chiefs. So I agree with that comment. Do you think the Chargers make the wild card this year?
Oof.
Wait, don't say it yet, because later today we're going.
Oh, that's right.
We're going to give our 1 through 7 seeds in the AFC and the NFC. But before we do that, we have to break down the NFC. We got to kind of cram this podcast because football is starting. The clock is ticking. And we have information to be giving. So with that said, you want to jump into the NFC?
Let's do it. And let's do the NFC, Kyle. Me and you, we're going to do the NFC here, right now.
On camera.
This is for everybody, all right? This is for everyone. So you guys can see us doing it.
I'm a porn star.
Worlds? Oh my God. All right, Kyle. Who do you what division do you want to start with? We got the North,
the
South,
man, so many
East,
options.
West.
Who do I want to start with? Let's start with the North. The North is just begging for it.
Oh, they're begging for it. They want it so bad right now. All right, let's start off with the NFC North. I've pretty much got mine down, and I mean, I don't love it, but we'll figure it out. Okay, so NFC North, sneakily getting into becoming one of the best divisions in football. A lot of great competition. I would say 3 out of the 4 head coaches are pretty damn good. Eberflus being the odd man out. Let's just be real here. They got a lot of intriguing options here at quarterback, a lot of just just progression over the last couple of years. So let's get into it. Number 4.
Okay. You want to go 4, 3, 2, 1, or we both do 4?
Yeah, let's both do our 4, and then we go into 3, then 2, then 1. Okay, so number 4 for me, I've got the Vikings. For me, it's the Vikings. Kevin O'Connell, awesome coach. JJ McCarthy's out for the season, unfortunately, after suffering a season-ending injury in the preseason. So that sucks because it was going to be awesome to see JJ McCarthy under Kevin O'Connell's kind of tutelage or whatever. And we got KC as a new member. Let's go, KC. Woo! Thank you, KC. Awesome to have you as a part of the Only Football fam here on the Only Football podcast. Appreciate it so much. Thumbs up. So they've got Sam Darnold there. Sam Darnold has started. Sam Darnold is a first rounder, number 2 overall pick, number 1 overall pick, whatever it is that he was. He's got potential, man. And especially under a guy like Kevin O'Connell after coming from the 49ers and Shanahan, I think he's got potential. I really do. And you've got Justin Jefferson, Hawkinson. You just brought in Aaron Jones as running back. That offense can be scary. The defense has improved since last year. I don't know. I'm still kind of like the potential of Darnold is awesome, but I don't really think he lives up to, I don't know, a wild card round. I don't know if Sam Darnold and this defense can will this team into a wild card round yet. I think we have to wait on to see how healthy JJ McCarthy can get next offseason, see how he's improved, and then pretty much go from there. But a year of JJ McCarthy sitting behind Darnold and O'Connell and looking at Jefferson and looking at this offense and how it runs, I think is going to be very, very beneficial for JJ McCarthy. I just don't think the Vikings make that much noise again for a wild card. So I got them at 4.
So will Sam Darnold be good though?
I think he has a decent year. I think it's one of those years where you looked at where you saw Geno Smith kind of like, oh, hey, Geno Smith. Wow, look at him, right? But I don't think anything crazy where he's leading the league in percentage of completed passes or yardage or touchdowns, anything like that. I just think he has a pretty decent year.
This is tough for me.
Say it. Fucking say it.
I have the Bears here at 4.
You son of a bitch.
The reason I have the Bears at 4 and
your dick
is a great division, by the way. The reason I have the Bears at 4 is because I feel like I have to do this kind of with the Vikings. So, spoiler, Vikings at 3. Kevin O'Connell is a good head coach. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I believe in Kevin O'Connell more than I believe in Matt Eberflus. It is what it is. Like Matt Eberflus, he has all of the weapons. They have their offensive coordinator, but you've kind of threw all these guys together and you're just hoping that they have instant success. Whereas the Vikings have Kevin O'Connell. Yes, Sam Darnold's new, but he's also a veteran that's been around the league for a while. And him and Kevin O'Connell can very quickly get on the same page. And they come from similar offenses. They're going to be fine. And that's why I did take Sam Darnold to win Comeback Player of the Year. But that doesn't happen unless the Vikings surprise a lot of teams. You got Aaron Jones, who for some reason, whenever a running back leaves his drafted team, people think he's done. Aaron Jones scored 3 touchdowns in the playoff game. Like, he was going off. Aaron Jones is in his prime right now. Aaron Jones is the best running back they've had since Dalvin Cook. And we know how good the Vikings were when they had a good running back with Kevin O'Connell. Now they have that. TJ Hawkinson, he's going to be dealing with an injury, but when he comes back, that's a huge weapon. You do have the best wide receiver in the game. And then Brian Flores going into year 2 as a defensive coordinator, I think that defense is going to be pretty good. I think the Vikings are a team that people have kind of passed on. I know there was a point in the season where I was like, the Vikings might not win any games. I kind of flip-flopped on my own, and that's why I'm glad we do these later in the season, because I think Sam Darnold is going to come out and surprise a lot of teams. Now, I think the Bears, even coming in fourth, I think you're talking 8 wins, 7 wins. I mean, normally when you have a fourth place division winner, you're talking 3-4 wins. I don't see that in the NFC North. But I think if Caleb Williams plays good, throws for 4,000 passing yards, limits his mistakes, I see Matt Eberflus being fired after this year. Unfortunately, sometimes it takes this much talent to be on a team for people to realize that that's not the head coach. I mean, could you imagine if Mike McDaniel was your head coach? Which leads me to a question that I've been wanting to ask you for a while, and I think this is a fun question for our viewers too. It's just a quick side pivot. If you could have any head coach in the NFL that's not your current head coach, who would you want to be your head coach?
Andy Reid.
Andy Reid?
Andy Reid all day.
It was a quick decision there.
It was. He's been in the league for so long. He took the Philadelphia Eagles out of like just shittiness of a team. Almost won a Super Bowl with him, I believe. And now is doing that with the Chiefs and developing their offense and making them a consistent football team, even with a lack, I say this over the last couple of years, lack of like a number one wide receiver, even with all the issues, happening. He's won what, 3 Super Bowls now in the last 5 years? Fuck yeah, give me Andy Reid, man. If you're asking me today, who do I want? Some of the sexier picks are probably Kyle Shanahan, like Bill's saying here, Mike McDaniel, McVay, maybe Dan Campbell to a certain extent, maybe even what's his name, the guy, the Packers,
or Matt LaFleur.
Matt LaFleur. Maybe those are the sexier picks. They're a little bit younger. They're kind of bringing in this like new dynamic offense, and McVay really is the only one who's won a Super Bowl out of all of them. So yeah, I still got to stick with tried and true Andy Reid, who has been doing this consistently for the last 5-6 years. So I'm going Andy Reid, number one.
Yeah. And I think I'm very tempted to just do what everybody's doing. Right. I mean, just go, Vikings, Bears, and then the rest. But I just think it's rare that it works out that way. And the Vikings could, I mean, like the comment here by Karen, Sam Darnold, he just played with Kyle Shanahan. I mean, you just cannot underestimate what that did to his career. You went from playing with just terrible teams, terrible head coaches. Zach Wilson looked really good with how many months with Sean Payton?
Yeah, he's like
Zach
3
Wilson doing stuff that you never saw in New York, not once. You're like, who is this guy? I mean, if Bo Nix didn't play his ass off in the preseason, you'd be talking about Zach Wilson starting.
That's true.
Have that kind of success coming from Kyle Shanahan on a coach that, I mean, the Vikings really aren't like talent deprivated. Like they have the talent, but Sam Darnold has that veteran leadership where I think the Bears are going to be good. I just don't know if it's going to be this year. I think that they're going to be good. I'm not sure if it's going to be immediate. And I don't think it's going to be time to hit the panic button. Like you drafted the right guy. I know that. I feel that. But that doesn't necessarily mean that's going to happen right away. Peyton Manning, it didn't happen right away. Trevor Lawrence didn't happen right away. Joe Burrow.
Tom Brady,
like
happened right away.
Tom Brady happened right away. You do have like a couple guys where it happens right away, but Mahomes happened right away. Tom Brady happened right away. Guess what? Bill Belichick and fucking Andy Reid, the guy you just said you wanted, not Matt Eberflus. I just all of the, to me, and I was going to start the segment, the buck stops, where it's like you take a moment like this, and this is where it's like the buck stops with Matt Eberflus, and I don't think that he's going to be able to prove that he's like the long-term head coach for the Bears. I just don't see that. I do think the Bears pivot from him very quickly. And their next head coach that they bring on does lead the Bears to long-term success right in time for the new stadium. And I mean, the Bears are entering a new era. I just don't know if it's going to happen under Matt Eberflus, where Kevin O'Connell and Sam Darnold, I think, could be a little more competitive than they're getting credit for, because the Bears are the sexy team right now in that NFC North. But like I said, that fourth seed or that fourth ranked team, it's still not a 5-6 win team. It's just, this is the most competitive division in the NFL, in my opinion, this year.
So one of the reasons, and I'll touch on this quickly before we move on to number 3, which you kind of gave your spoiler alert. I feel like people already know mine as well. The one reason I will say why I don't believe they'll move on from Eberflus, especially in the middle of the season and probably even after this next season, is one of the biggest arguments, and I think you've also made kind of the argument over this last offseason, was Justin Fields got fucked. He got fucked from the minute he entered the Bears, right? Like, he went through 3 different offensive coordinators, 2 head coaches, and never really got into a rhythm. So they are very high, obviously, with the number 1 overall pick on Caleb Williams, on Rome Odunze, on DJ Moore, Cole Kmet, this offense that they're bringing in. Shane Waldron is his first year as offensive coordinator. One of the reasons I don't think they're going to move on from Eberflus is because of all those things. They want to keep some sort of consistency, and they want to keep a development plan in place for Caleb Williams to be the franchise quarterback. So I don't know if they move on from Eberflus and Shane Waldron, because you move on from a head coach, you move on from his staff. The head coach that comes in, no matter what, is probably going to get rid of Shane Waldron because, I've got another vision for this quarterback, right? That's just how it goes. Everybody in the NFL knows it. We as fans know it. That's one of the reasons, and I believe the biggest reason why they won't move on from him. And go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say, I love that. I totally get that. And I'm not saying that's not the case. I'm just saying, if the Bears do finish 4th in their division and the Lions do win the Super Bowl, it's going to be like, okay, Ben Johnson is one of the best offenses in the league. Like,
they just won the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Like, how do you not transition from Eberflus to Ben Johnson? Like, I get what you're saying, but at some point it's like, the talent is here, so what's not? And I do think that you got the GM right. And I don't think the GM will dig his feet in at the expense of all of Chicago.
I can see that too.
If he is a great GM, all great GMs have this one thing in common, where they make their mistakes, but they pivot quick from them. They don't harbor in them. They don't dig their toes into the sand and say, no, this has to work.
Yeah,
the good GMs, they move quick. They're like, hey, we tried Russell Westbrook, didn't work. Get him out of here. Like, you try something out, and you tried Eberflus. Like, I think if it doesn't work this year with all the talent, it's like, it ran its course. Like, at some point, I just think too highly of the GM in Chicago, actually.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I praise Ryan Poles for, is being able to pretty much come in here, realize his mistake, and cut bait. Again, one of the cuts from the preseason was Ja'Tyre Carter, who he drafted as an offensive lineman and who he envisioned as one of the guys to anchor that offensive line. And he was like, you know what? The last couple of years, his rookie season and his second year or third year, whatever it was, he has been able to get in games, has not looked good. And you know what? We're not going to extend him. We're actually going to cut him. We're going to give him whatever he's owed and cut him. So when he came in, he got rid of Khalil Mack. He got rid of this guy. He got rid of this guy. Roquan Smith was the other one, a fan favorite, and one of the guys that, again, was probably expected to be a Bear for life. So yeah, I totally get that too. I just, again, they have to look really, really bad. In my opinion, they have to look really bad. If this offense is clicking and they're losing games like the Lions did in 2022 before their NFC Championship appearance last year, then maybe Eberflus continues even at 4th place, right? If the Vikings win 8 games and the Bears win 8 games and the Vikings won the tiebreaker to be in 3rd instead of 4th. Okay, now we're looking at Eberflus a little bit different. We're looking at this team a little bit different. Shane Waldron's working. Eberflus is working. This defense is doing really well. Let's keep this core tight and let's move on to the next season. But if they look like shit, if they win 5 games, less than they won last year, yeah, I probably would agree. And the offense doesn't look good, and these weapons aren't meshing because the offense doesn't look good under Shane Waldron. Totally agree. A Ben Johnson becomes available. Another offensive type of coach becomes available, because I think really at the end of the day, I believe that's what Ryan Poles wants to do, is get another offensive guy who he believes will not only be the head coach, but be the offensive coordinator and have a better development plan for Caleb Williams and this offense. So I know we went a little far on that. Or a little long on that, so I don't want to make this all about the Bears, but it's a great point to come up,
because I mean, you win 8 games, it's almost like, oh, but next year, like,
yeah, it's the Nagy effect all over again.
Yeah, but real quick, Davis Webb, Bill, thank you for him. He's amazing. Sean Payton has spoken so highly of Davis Webb. He says he's going to be a head coach in this league, and he just thinks it's just amazing that Denver is able to have somebody like that on the roster. I mean, there's just and that's the thing, when you bring in an offensive mind to kind of tie this into the Bears, like, when it rains, it pours. Like, Sean Payton is an offensive guru, but he also knows, because he's a guru, who the other ones are, the future gurus, and he brings those guys in underneath him. So you got just a lot of brilliant minds in that film room, and I think that's what Caleb needs. But we'll see. Do you want to do your number 3?
Yeah, number 3 for me was going to be the Bears. You're right in all of your assessments, right? DJ Moore, Cole Kmet, a lot of this offensive line have worked together. They've got a new quarterback, guy who sits in the pocket a little bit more, always looking downfield, and is trying to get the pass off instead of run. He's way more accurate than Justin Fields was passing the ball, at least in what I've seen in the preseason. I don't want to go all crazy now, right? I don't want to say this is the most accurate passer the Bears have ever had. He just looked he looked better than Justin Fields has in the last 2 years in preseason. We'll wait until the entire 24 season to make our assessment, but they've got a new quarterback
the Bears have ever had in franchise history right now.
I fucking hope so. We'll see how that transition happens. We'll see how Shane Waldron's offense works. We'll see how, if Montez Sweat and the rest of these guys that Poles has drafted, Gervonta Davis, they brought in, I forget the other defensive tackle they brought in last year, Billings, that's guy. We'll see if TJ Edwards and Tremaine Edmonds can continue what they had at the end of last season, where they were just tackling machines. They were pretty much the leaders of this defense. If Montez Sweat can continue to his sack pace, whatever. A lot of things do have to happen. I agree, because this is becoming now let's plug and play these guys. Is Rome Odunze even going to be a damn good wide receiver? I think so. I think it's kind of almost a certainty that he's going to be a good wide receiver, but we are banking as Bears fans a lot on Caleb Williams and Shane Waldron's offense working really well. Working as well, where DJ Moore and Keenan Allen are wide receiver number 1 and 2, both of them coming off career years, and can incorporate Rome Odunze and Tyler Scott as deep threats, or even just like slot guys. The defensive stuff, again, we are banking a lot on this. So I think it's going to work well, much better than what the Vikings will have with Sam Darnold and some names on defense. I still think maybe they brought in some young guys, the Vikings, from defense, Dallas Turner, sorry. And they brought in Stephon Gilmore, cornerback. Jonathan Bullard is their defensive tackle. So they've got some guys, Byron Murphy at cornerback. They've got some guys that can do some things on the defense. I don't know. They bring in Sam Darnold. Addison is probably, I believe, is already suspended for the first few games. Justin Jefferson seems to be the only playmaker there. And then they bring in Aaron Jones. Who knows how that's going to work under Kevin O'Connell, although I got some faith in that. But I've got the Bears at number 3. I just don't see any way they win less than 7 games. I really don't. I think they're a 9-win team, and that's why I got them at number 3 and possibly into a wild card spot. Yeah,
I got that too. And real quick Bears joke for you, just because we're, that's what we do here. Why are Bears girls the best to date?
Why?
Because they're not expecting a ring.
All right, thank you guys so much. I'm out of here. Also, I want to go back just real quick. I want to correct something. I had the Broncos in third place. No, I think the Raiders are going to be better.
That's not fair. I didn't say I wouldn't cheer for them. I mean, cheer.
All right,
yeah,
let's. You got
2 and
Vikings
1
number
are
3.
really difficult.
I was going to say the same thing. Who you got, Kyle?
Ultimately, I don't think it matters. These two teams will be in the postseason, so I'm gonna go Packers with the 2nd seed, or I guess that's what we're calling it right now. But yeah, I mean, Jordan, like you mentioned earlier, the wide receivers. I think you're gonna see a very good wide receiver room. Jatavion Wicks, Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson. These guys are super young, but what do we know about young receivers? Like, they're not from year 2 to year 3, they normally make a really big jump where they're not really thinking as much on the field. They're more just reacting. They become more instinctual. They understand the playbook. They're going into year 2 with Jordan Love. Jordan Love now has the identity that he didn't really have week 1, where it was like, you're the replacement for Aaron Rodgers. Now he's paid and he's Jordan Love. There's no more Aaron Rodgers jerseys. There's Jordan Love's jerseys. It's a new era, and they're fully embracing it. They bring in Josh Jacobs. I think the defense is going to be good under a new defensive coordinator, head coach out of Boston College. I'm blanking on his name right now, but I understand what is his name? I always know.
I'll look it up again.
But I think that was a great move and career move for him, because he's like, look, if the Packers win the Super Bowl and I'm the defense coordinator, now I'm looking at being a head coach. What was it?
Jeff Hafley.
Yeah, Jeff Hafley. Now I'm looking at a head coach candidate, but a really good coach and somebody that's going to get the Packers defense kind of back on track. But what they were able to accomplish last year, very similar to the Lions the year before, where you kind of got like just a glimpse of what the Packers could be. And then they were able, through a little bit of luck in teams losing, to get into the postseason. But boy, did they not disappoint, dropping a 40 burger on the Dallas Cowboys on the road.
Yeah.
And wondering, like, what is this guy going to look like? He's not a rookie, but I don't want to call him a rookie because he did have that experience, but you just didn't know what you were going to get out of Jordan Love. I thought he was going to work out, but nobody could have predicted he was going to be this good, this quick. And he really went into Dallas, where you see even quarterbacks like Peyton Manning struggle in the postseason. Jordan Love went in there, and it just looked like more of what we saw week 17. And I think week 17, they actually lost to Tampa, I think, at home.
They lost Tua?
To Tampa Bay. Oh,
yeah.
But, I just think the expectations for the Packers are also Super Bowl. The expectations for Jordan Love is to win MVP. This team is very quickly kind of like Houston, where it might have only taken a year, but the expectations are there, and they're there immediately. And I could see a scenario where the Packers win more games than the Lions and are the best team in the. There's nothing surprising about that. Maybe a little surprised because it's like, oh, the Lions were, the team last year. But I think these teams are going to be neck and neck all the way until they I think the tiebreaker is going to happen November 3rd. So the Packers and Lions play twice in a 5-week time frame. So November 3rd, their first matchup, and then December 5th is their last matchup. I think those games are going to go a long way in this 1-2, but ultimately both of these teams make the playoffs. Both of these teams win more than 10 games. And that's why this division's the best in the NFL right now.
Yeah, I agree with your 2-1. I also have the Packers coming in at 2, and I have the Lions coming in at 1. It would be interesting to see the reverse, the flip, because just like you're saying, one of the best divisions in football, getting up there to being the best because of just all the young players that are being injected into this division and on these teams. it would become somewhat like the NFC East, where they haven't had a back-to-back division winner since like 2005 or something like that. Like, it would be cool for that to be kind of the NFC North. Is like, it's tough to win this back-to-back because of the talent. But yeah, I'm gonna go Packers 2 and Lions 1. It's tough to not have the Lions, who just went to the NFC Championship last year and had a really good shot at getting to the Super Bowl, not having them at number 1 winning this division. Dan Campbell, for all the mistakes that he makes, for all the coaching decisions that he makes, is still a very good head coach. He is letting his guy, his offensive coordinator, defense coordinator, he's letting those guys do what they need to do. And you know what they're giving him back? They're giving him wins, and they're giving him division titles, and they're getting him to the NFC Championship. So it's tough for me to pick against the Lions right now. The Packers on the up and up. They just paid Jordan Love, like you said. They brought in a brand new defensive coordinator after Joe Barry looked like absolute dog shit last season with their defense, although they did improve in the last part of the season and postseason. But you're injecting a brand new coach into that defense, and I feel like it might start looking a lot better. Again, it's hard for me to pick against the Lions. I got them winning the division, but LaFleur is still a very good head coach. Jordan Love is probably going to only be better than he was last year, and especially the last 10 weeks or so, 8 weeks or so of his season last year. He's probably just going to keep improving, and if not, good. I don't want him to improve. I want him to just decline completely. But
rapidly.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. But yeah, I got Lions 1, Packers 2, Bears 3, Vikings 4. Kyle has got Lions, Packers, Vikings, Bears, Dick. So that is our NFC North prediction.
Well, Dan Campbell did say in his press conference after the 49ers lost, he's like, it just sucks because it's going to be a lot harder to get here next year.
Exactly. So you got any last words on that for the Lions?
Those were my last words.
Last words. Love it. Those were my last fucking words.
My first words are going to be D for the P really quick, 20 seconds.
D for the P. I love it. And we're going to get into, fuck it. We're going to do North. Let's go into South. NFC South predictions. You guys hear Kyle? Yes. I love it. But yes, Casey, watch out for Love. Again, he got paid, man. He did really well. I think he deserved it for this. Technically, this being his first year starting, he didn't look great in games that he took over or started. Spot starts for Aaron Rodgers the last couple seasons that he was a quarterback, backup quarterback for Green Bay. But he proved everybody wrong. He proved haters wrong. He proved Bears fans wrong for sure. Because I definitely was like, fuck this guy. But he got paid. He went to the playoffs. We talked about his dominance against the Cowboys and an unfortunate picking it against the better team in the 49ers. But watch out for Love indeed. And something I got to deal with. So this fucking blows. But while Kyle is taking that D for the P, let's get into the NFC South. A lot of interesting things have happened in the NFC South. We've talked about them. A lot of player movement, a lot of surprises. One of the biggest ones last year being Baker Mayfield winning the division in the NFC South for the Buccaneers, looking really good doing it, and then going into the postseason against the Eagles and just slicing and dicing them. So that was one of the bigger surprises. The Saints, I mean, that whole division last year wasn't great. Let's be real, right? Because prior to that, when the Saints signed Derek Carr, I was like, the Saints are winning this. And they look like kind of dog shit, kind of like the rest of the division did. So a lot of surprises happened. The Carolina Panthers with Bryce Young did not look good one bit last year. And that was partly to blame on Tepper for bringing in such an older head coach. I forget his name at the moment, but they got rid of him a few games into the year. Don't help the development of Bryce Young. You don't really bring in any weapons for him last season either. You bring some older vets. What's his name? Oh my God. Teal. What's the wide receiver name for the Panthers last year? The white guy.
Adam Thielen.
Adam Thielen. Yes, thank you. Adam Thielen was probably this number is wide receiver number 1. Who you got there, Kyle? Who you got there? He's like, please, God, help me.
I got the Bears winning the Super Bowl.
Let's go. I love it. I love it. But yeah, so let's get into the NFC South now, Kyle. We went into a couple of those surprises, a couple of emerging stars, but this NFC South of today looks a lot different than the NFC South of last year. Let's get into it. At number 4, Kyle, who do you have winning at number 4 in the NFC South?
I have winning the number 4 spot. The Carolina Panthers.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. I had the Saints at 4. I have
no.
Yeah.
Wow.
This is a big year for the Saints because they're finally going to get rid of a coach who, and mark my words, Dennis Allen will not be fired. He will resign as the head coach because of his relationship with Mickey Loomis.
Mm-hmm.
They have a very tight relationship. So that is the only reason that he's been able to stay as long as he has. Let's be real. Like, he hasn't won in any games. The Saints haven't been impressive since Sean Payton decided not to be there. And Alvin Kamara, I mean, it just seems like so outdated. Like I said, the teams that pivot from their decisions, the Saints are the opposite of that right now, and they're kind of digging their heels into with players like Alvin Kamara and even hoping Derek Carr works. And these, I'm just, at least with Carolina, there's a freshness, right? You bring in a new head coach, you bring in Adam Thielen, you bring in Deontay Johnson, you draft, they drafted Xavier Legette?
No, the Panthers or the Saints?
The Panthers.
Yeah. Legit.
So Legit. You bring in a linebacker in Josie Jewell. Like, the Panthers are making moves. Like, they draft Jonathan Brooks. I would not be surprised if the Panthers are a lot better than they were last year. Not a little bit better, a lot better. I still don't know if Bryce Young is ever going to be worthy of that number 1 pick he was drafted at. But I said the Panthers at first, but honestly, I think the Saints do finish with the worst record. I think they win around 4 games this year, and they probably draft Shedeur Sanders with the first overall pick next year.
Oh, not Carson Beck?
Who?
Carson Beck, the quarterback for the Georgia Bulldogs? Or
I have no idea who that is. I'm kidding.
Really? I was like, no way. Quinn Ewers?
No, I think Shedeur Sanders goes 1. I think Colorado's going to have 2 players that go in the top 5 next year.
Travis Hunter.
Travis Hunter, yeah. I mean, 100%. He's probably going to go 3 overall.
Yeah. I have to agree. Saints are number 4. Saints are number 4 for me. The Panthers are a vastly improved team from last season. It's easy to just spot where they got better. They bring in Deontay Johnson now as like an actual true wide receiver 1. You make the additions really all over the place. One of the biggest additions was obviously Dave Canales, who was the offensive coordinator for the Bucs last season, who turned Baker Mayfield into a damn good looking quarterback, into his like early Browns days type of quarterback, where they're making the playoffs. So I think Dave Canales was a very, very good pickup for the Panthers. And all these moves that are being made, this is why I'm talking about like Dave Tepper, right? Dog shit kind of a person, the way he acts, things he said, things he's done. He's making up for all of this bad press that he has gotten by trying to make the team better. This is the owner, guys. Like, this is the guy who's like, yes, and in my opinion is the one who has the final say in all these signings, really, right? He's like a Jerry Jones type. Like, you can see how involved he is in his team. So to me, in my opinion, he's saying yes to all these moves, and they're all good moves. So luckily, he's not the one making them. He's the one saying yes or no. he's got a good GM there that's starting to make these moves and lead them in the right direction for the Panthers. The Saints, really the only thing the Saints got going for him is Chris Olave. On defense, Cameron Jordan, who has been a staple there in New Orleans for a while now. He's old though. He's getting up there in age right now. He's 35 years old as a defensive end. I'm 33, but like 35-year-old defensive end for the Saints. I mean, I feel like this is kind of the tail end of his career. The Saints maybe not necessarily, again, going to be one of those guys on defense that, makes huge plays happen or look good doing it. And again, really the only person they have on offense is Chris Olave and Alvin Kamara. And Alvin Kamara is a do-it-all type of running back, but man,
I love
God
Chris
forbid
Olave.
he gets hurt. Chris Olave is great.
Yeah, it's kind of sad, the situation that he's in. So week 1, the Panthers are going to New Orleans and playing the Saints. So right off the bat, we're going to kind of get some sort of like, where are you guys at? I mean, the Superdome's really tough to play. The crowds are definitely going to be into it. It's a tough game for the Panthers. So I wouldn't say necessarily if the Saints win week 1 that we're wrong on our predictions. That's an overreaction. Like I would say give it some time for it to unfold. I think they'll show their identity by week 4, week 5, week 6. You'll start to see like, maybe the Saints aren't that good. I mean, what's the biggest move they made this offseason? Think about it.
They drafted Talizi Fuaga. That's it.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, they're not even making big moves.
They're not. And this is a great question here by Bill. How long do they play Carr before they switch to Spencer Rattler? I think that's a very real possibility.
I think, it's definitely a real possibility.
Yeah.
I also think it's a possibility that Derek Carr plays the whole season.
True.
Even if the Saints aren't good.
Yeah.
We talked about digging your heels in. Right?
They got to do it. They have to do it. They have to dig their heels into fucking Derek Carr.
Yeah, I mean, they paid him too much money. I mean, unless they're like 0-5, 0-6, I mean, honestly, there's a point in the season where the season's already over, so it doesn't really matter. It's like maybe throw them in just to see if our luck changes. I could see if it's that bad, but if it's like they're 2-5, I still see Derek Carr out there. So if it does happen, unless they go 0-6, I think it would probably have to happen around week 10, because it has to happen where it's like maybe we could turn the season around, or week 17, and it's like, let's just see what he is for next year. But I think those are like, wow, that was a really like roundabout way. It's like, it's either going to happen week 6, week 10, or week 17. It's like, when's it going to happen? We asked when it was. I don't know.
I can totally see a week 10 replacement if they're looking at like a 4-6 type of thing, or even like a 2-8, something like that. Like it's got to be like, you've got to be at least a couple games under 500. And again, another part of this is how good have you looked recently while having such a shit record? If you're going to bring in Spencer Rattler, like you said, why not? You've got Taysom Hill on the roster, sure, but he's more of like one of those like, let's run with Taysom Hill. Let's do some crazy wildcat formation with Taysom Hill. He's not a franchise quarterback. A lot of people thought so maybe like 2-3 years ago, and he's just not. So bring in Spencer Rattler, see what you got in him as a rookie. Why not? Because like you said, probably at the end of this season, and Bill went to Spot Track 2024 at the end of this year as an out on Derek Carr's contract. You're probably looking at Derek Carr being out of here. You're probably looking at their head coach being out of here. Dennis Allen, right? Dennis Allen. He's probably out of there, depending on how well they're doing. I just like, this could be a turn of a new leaf for the Saints. And if they have a high pick, maybe they go with a Travis Hunter type guy. Depending on how Spencer Rattler does, of course. Depending on how he does.
If Aaron Rodgers can't stay healthy, you're going to see Jordan Travis play too.
Oh,
Florida State's quarterback that had them going undefeated last year. Some people still think Jordan Travis, Spencer Rattler and Jordan Travis are kind of in this category where it's like, we weren't good enough to be selected in the first round. But we believe we are. So it'll be exciting to see them play.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my 4-3 going into 2. I got.
Say it.
I hate this. I have the Atlanta Falcons.
Oh, wow.
Atlanta Falcons. Man.
Mm-hmm.
I think they added a lot of pieces. I think Kirk Cousins is good. He is coming off an injury.
Mm-hmm.
He is older. Older doesn't necessarily mean that he's on, a rapid decline, but I do think his prime is behind him.
Mm-hmm.
Kyle Pitts hasn't. I mean, you're kind of hoping that he's going to just make all these guys that should have already pan out, if that makes sense. You're like, if Kirk Cousins can't make Kyle Pitts great, then nobody can. And, I mean, that's kind of the situation you're in with a lot of players. I think a lot of talent is on this team, but I don't trust Raheem Morris as the head coach. I don't know. I mean, I thought the hire was strange. I think at this point in the league, any defensive hire is weird to me. The NFL is clearly trending in an offensive direction. Are they going to be able to be fine with offensive coordinator and Kirk Cousins and just trust the leadership out of them? Maybe. But there's another team that's already been to the playoffs and already won a playoff game, and they happen to bring all their pieces back. So I still think that it's Tampa Bay's division to lose. And just like last year, I mean, they were very surprising, but Baker Mayfield's the number 1 overall pick. I mean, Baker Mayfield is a Caleb Williams. Yeah. He just has been in very bad situations. I mean, he brought Cleveland to their first playoff appearance. Then he goes to, Carolina, where nobody does well, whether it's Sam Darnold or any of these other guys.
Yeah.
Just like New York Jets. And then they, where did Baker Mayfield? And then he went to LA, but Matthew Stafford was there. So it was like, what were you going to do? Finally, Baker gets into a pretty okay scenario. It was okay. I wouldn't say it was Caleb Williams great, but it was pretty good. And we saw what he could do. I mean, Baker Mayfield looked awesome in the playoffs. I do not want anyone to forget how good Baker Mayfield looked. He crushed the playoffs. He went toe-to-toe with Jared Goff. He outplayed, he tore apart the Eagles defense. I just think that it would be weird to think that just because they added Kirk Cousins that Baker Mayfield's not going to challenge him for that number 1 spot, considering the continuity that they have with keeping Mike Evans and Chris Godwin both on the roster and drafting another running back to compete when they were last in the NFL in rushing yards per attempt. So, I mean, they had all the odds stacked against them, and Baker still overcame them late in the season, becoming the first quarterback to have a perfect quarterback rating at Lambeau Field in December. Baker Mayfield was on fire at the close of that season. I think they're going to actually start faster than they did last year. I think they just got going at the end of the year. So I'm excited to see Tampa. And I think Atlanta's doing a lot of good stuff, and that's why it's really difficult. But it's also a lot of new. And I'm not just going to be like, oh, they put it. I've seen firsthand it look great on paper. It's one thing for it to actually work out.
Yeah, and that's fair. That's a fair assessment. So you're going Falcons and then Bucks. I'm going to go opposite. I'm going to go Bucks and Falcons. And I already said it. It's my yearly thing. I call it. I call it during the offseason. For some reason, the NFC South is like, that's my thing, is like some big move happens. I'm just premature to the whole thing. Last year I called the Saints. this year. I called the Falcons already. They added Kirk Cousins. This is going to be year 2 of Bijan Robinson. Let's not forget that, right? He was underutilized last season. What'd you say?
You're right. I totally forgot about that.
And that was one of the points I was going to bring up was Bijan Robinson. Everyone is predicting Bijan Robinson to be this fucking monster of a running back, kind of like a CMC type of guy, going forward and starting this year. So couple that with Kirk Cousins and couple that as well with Drake London as wide receiver 1. And to an extent, Darnell Mooney is a deep threat. I had him on the Bears for at least a couple of years. He's a 1,000-yard receiver. He had a year of 1,000 yards, so he's got some potential. So that offense, I think, honestly, in my opinion, I think is going to be pretty fucking electric to start off the season. I think kind of how you're saying with the Bucs, they start off like pretty fast and they start off like wowing the NFL. I think that's what's going to happen with the Falcons. So I could see that happening. On the defensive side, who do they got? They just brought in Judon. Justin Simmons they brought in as well to kind of help there in the safety side. Who else? There's like who's their fucking like I think Grady Jarrett is like probably their one of their better defensive ends. Their defense last year I felt like was underappreciated and kind of underrated. I think we talked about the Falcons defense too and how like, wow, no, yeah, they put up actually pretty damn decent numbers, even though their offense, because their offense and how bad and ineffective they were the one getting most of the spotlight. So you didn't really get too much of the spotlight for the defense, and they were still pretty damn good. Undervalued, underappreciated, but pretty damn good. And that's why I got the Falcons at number 1. The Bucs, we cannot discount what Baker Mayfield did with that team last year. They are moving on from Dave Canales, an offensive coordinator. So we don't know how that offense is going to look, right? And this is similar to your point with Raheem Morris as head coach and addition subtractions for the Falcons. Dave Canales kind of made Baker last year into his former number 1 overall pick self with the Browns. How that's going to change this year, I don't know, but their head coach hasn't changed, and their head coach is not great. I'm forgetting his name because we don't do names here on this podcast, but I am forgetting his name at this moment. But we've seen him make terrible, terrible decisions last season included. And
Desmond Ridder.
Fucking no. The Bucs head coach.
Todd Bowles.
Todd Bowles
who was just named today to the NFL competition committee.
No way.
Yeah.
More bad decisions to come, everybody. So we'll see how that, bringing in a new offensive coordinator and Todd Bowles, how that whole thing is going to evolve. They've still got, oh my God, their wide receiver, Mike Evans. They still got him there. Probably another 1,000-yard season coming up. The running back, Rachaad White, wasn't very great last season. I feel like I think he's going to have a bounce back season this year. I really do. Because I feel like a lot of people are going to try to zone in on Mike Evans, on Baker Mayfield. So he might be one of those guys that is able to take those opportunities given to him running the ball, catching passes, as a check down or whatever, and really make good use of his increased role. So he might be a guy that sticks out in the offense next year for this year coming up for the Bucs. And their defense for the Bucs, not bad either. Not bad. I think they've made some improvements, if I'm not mistaken. I'm going to look at them here. Let's see. Buccaneers, Bucs depth chart 2024. Let's see. Vita Vea, still pretty damn good. Jordan Whitehead. Yeah, Antoine Winfield Jr. Like, they've still got some guys there, man. They've got some guys in defense.
They drafted Chris Braswell. I love that pick. That was the second rounder. So you're going to have an immediate impact player in the secondary. Graham Barton, he's impressing everybody. So you're the offensive line. Tyke Smith, the defensive back out of Georgia, is going to be a starter. Then remember, who's the wide receiver out of Washington? Jalen McMillan.
They drafted
Jalen McMillan, so another wide receiver. And then You mentioned Rashad White. They drafted Bucky Irving out of Oregon to compete with him in the 4th round. So I thought they had a really good draft, actually. And when you look at their draft, a lot of impact players that I think are going to hit the field right away.
Yeah, totally. So all that put together, I still think they do a little bit less.
Come on.
Than the Falcons. Here's the thing, and this is what I was going to say with the Packers and the Lions. I think it comes down to a tiebreaker between these guys, the Bucs and the Falcons, similar to what I'm thinking with the Packers and the Lions. I think it comes down to a tiebreaker, even like a one game in the W column difference. I really do think that's what it comes down to at the end of the year.
Dude,
it's going to be close.
Just pick Tampa.
No, I got to disagree with you. Duh.
Well, that takes us to the NFC West.
Nice. I love it.
Not the NFC best. No longer. It is the NFC best, but West. This is, though, a really good NFC division, and it's featuring, of course, the NFC defending champions, San Francisco 49ers. Then you got the Rams and the Seahawks and the Cardinals. I think all are going to be good teams this year. There's not a bad team in this division, in my opinion. It's actually a really tough division to pick for me. I
say it.
At 4, I have the Seahawks.
Yeah, I knew it.
I have the Seahawks at 4. Another defensive coach. This isn't anything against the Seahawks, but I like the direction these other teams are in right now more than the Seahawks. If I were to just pick the worst quarterback in the division, I could probably go through every division and be right. Who's the worst quarterback in the NFC North? Sam Darnold. Vikings probably finished 4th. Who's the worst quarterback in the AFC South? You got Anthony Richardson, Trevor Lawrence.
Titans by an inch.
Yeah, Titans. Will Levis. I mean, so that's what I'm doing here. Geno Smith. I like Kyler Murray and Matthew Stafford and Brock Purdy better. I still think this is a really good division. But Arizona had a hell of a draft class. They drafted 12 players, I believe.
Yeah.
Trey Benson, Marvin Harrison Jr., Kyler Murray has proven that he's really good when he's on the field. Somehow it seems like a lot of people have forgotten about that, or they're just off of Kyler Murray. Like he wasn't the number 1 overall pick. Like he didn't have the Cardinals 6-0 2 years ago at week 7. I like the Cardinals this year. I'm a lot higher on the Cardinals than a lot of people. If I was any lower on the Cardinals, they would be here at 4. But I got the Seahawks here. I don't want to say their coach is going to be one and done or anything like that. This is just one of those divisions where I'm almost like hitting the I give up button because I really don't know. I really don't know who's going to end up being 4th in this division. I don't feel good no matter who I pick. That's the problem.
Yeah. I've got the Cardinals at 4. I do. I love what they've done. I love Jonathan Gannon, what he's done too with last year. Trey McBride is going to be a problem, I think, in the league. Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be a problem. Kyler Murray's got some fucking weapons to throw. James Conner, running back, is pretty damn good. Their draft, like you said, they drafted the edge Darius Robinson, Max Melton from Rutgers as a cornerback. Trey Benson you mentioned as well. I don't know. There's something about the Seahawks that makes me think they're going to be a little bit better than them. So I'm going Cardinals 4, Seahawks 3. I know this sounds weird because everything except the players that they drafted is the same. Sorry, in Arizona. And in the Seahawks, it's almost the opposite. The coaching staff has changed. A lot of the offense has stayed the same. I really think the product on the field in this case for the Seahawks is going to be better, a little bit more well polished than what the Arizona Cardinals are going to put out there. Kyler Murray, again, he missed some games last season. He was still injured. So there's a little bit of that. Yes, it's a full off season for him. So they're probably, getting pretty much back in rhythm and meshing or whatever. I don't know. I just think the product on the field with Geno Smith at quarterback, DK Metcalf, Smith and Jigba, Kenneth Walker will probably get hurt by week 4 and be gone for a few weeks. That's just what Kenneth Walker does. Let's be real. I think the product on the field is going to be a little bit better. The defense for Seattle, to me, is much better than the Cardinals. That's why I got them at 3 over the Cardinals.
I can't believe that. I think that is the worst take you've ever had on this show.
What do you mean? I had the Steelers winning in 2021.
No, you didn't. We both know that was clickbait.
Before we even had clickbait.
No, I get it. I mean, the Cardinals have it's a process, and they're in the beginning stages of it, but I think they're coached well. I like the young roster, and for the Seahawks, I just don't like JSN. He's supposed to be really good, but he really hasn't yet. And I think Geno Smith is his 1 year that he had where it was like comeback player of the year. They wrote me off, but I didn't write back, all that. I just think that's behind him.
Yeah.
And then there's like 2 teams that it's like, it's not even close, right? So it's really between Arizona or Seattle. That's it. So
yeah.
It's not like Seattle's down here because of any other reason, but Arizona's a little bit ahead of them for me. But I kind of like that we're coming different angles here because I think Rich Gannon is going to have these guys as maybe one of the surprise teams of the league this year. But honestly, it wouldn't be too surprising because unlike the Broncos and the Patriots who have 5.5 win totals, I think the Cardinals were at 7.5. So
okay.
Like the league's kind of expecting the Cardinals to be that's a fringe playoff team at least around November, December. You're playing meaningful football still. So is that going to be the case for the Seahawks? Maybe. But I'm going to go Cardinals there. And then at number 2,
I want to do it at the same time. Oh, I wanted to do it at the same time.
No, wait. Who do you have at 2?
You'll figure it out.
Oh, okay. Well, then we did it at the same time. You would have told me right then.
Yeah, exactly. But you didn't. You went first. So you went 49ers? 49ers? Fuck you. Fuck everybody say fuck you, Kyle, for that. Fuck you.
No, listen. They did go to the Super Bowl. And they've been to the Super Bowl multiple times, and they haven't won. The vibes aren't right. Trent Williams is holding out. They just got Aiyuk back. Brock Purdy's throwing interceptions. Like, the vibes aren't right, and that matters. CMC, knock on wood, wherever you can find it, but he deals with a lot of injuries. He's stayed remotely healthy the last couple of years. Then he deals with this calf strain. I don't know if that's going to linger on throughout the year, but I don't think CMC plays an 18-week season. I just don't feel that way.
Yeah, because you're going to take week 18 off after they've already clinched the number 1 seed.
It's possible. I'm not saying that's out of the realm of possibilities, but I'm going with the Rams.
Wow.
I'm going with the Rams. Matthew Stafford, he was dealing with injuries, and you got to think he's only 2 years removed from winning a Super Bowl. Not going to a Super Bowl like your favorite 49ers, winning the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And I think he's going to want to have at least one more great year before he hangs up the cleats for good. So I like them. I like Puka Nacua. I like Cooper Kupp. I think you got 2 wide receivers that would be wide receiver 1s on any team. I like what they got going on with their head coach and Sean McVay. I think he's arguably the best head coach in the NFL right now. With Andy Reid, it's like Andy Reid, Sean McVay. They're definitely the best offensive minds. And the Rams have actually had the 49ers number when they've played head to head. when the Rams got into the postseason last year, I felt like they could be one of those wild card teams that just gets hot at the right moment and somehow gets to the Super Bowl, like the Giants did in, what was it, 2007, and nobody was like, the Giants weren't on the radar. Well, I think that the Rams were going to be that team last year, and they were. They won a playoff game, and then they went into Detroit, where Detroit was playing for their first playoff win in 30 years. I mean, that place was rocking. That place was louder than any stadium of the entire postseason. And you saw him go back and forth. I think Puka Nacua had 184 receiving yards in that game, broke the rookie record for most receiving yards in a playoff game, won, what was it? Or he would have won Rookie Offensive Player of the Year, but no, did he win it? Or who did that go to?
Who was this for Puka?
Puka Nacua.
It was it was a CJ Stroud.
No, but it always goes to quarterbacks. That's the thing.
Yeah.
But I mean, he was
up there.
He was number 2, and honestly, CJ Stroud had one of the seasons that happens every decade. If that doesn't happen, Puka gets it. So I think the direction that the Rams are headed into, like a lot of teams, it kind of matters how you finish. And the fact that the Lions were up 17 points on the 49ers in the NFC Championship in the third quarter, and the Rams were right there within striking distance of beating them. I thought the Rams played the Lions better through 3 quarters than the 49ers played the Lions. And I think that counts for something. I think if you're just taking a head-to-head, like, who do you trust more this year, Brock Purdy or Matthew Stafford? Matthew Stafford's still one of the best quarterbacks in this league. He's your quarterback's favorite quarterback in the NFL. He's criminally underrated year after year. I think Matthew Stafford has one more Super Bowl run in him, and I think they give 49ers a run for their money. And a Super Bowl hangover is a real thing, especially when you get to multiple Super Bowls and you don't win them. The 49ers are in a Super Bowl hangover right now. The Rams are young, energetic, and excited for this year. I just think the vibes are different. I think the Rams are going to surprise a lot of people.
I will say I love that take about Matthew Stafford. Is like, he's getting up there in age. He wants to have another really good year with Cooper Kupp, with Puka Nacua, with Kyren Williams, right, coming out of the backfield there. The defense, I think, is still one of the biggest question marks for the Rams after losing Donald, right? Like, that's a huge hit to the interior defensive line. And just, I think your defense just in general, they lost Bobby Wagner too. And I mean, while he wasn't like this amazing player on the Rams, it's still a big name and a guy who just racks up tackles. But he was getting older, so his production was going down a bit. So you lose a couple guys there on defense.
But they drafted, they drafted Brendan Fisk and Jared Verse.
Yep. I was going to say, they brought in these younger defensive guys to fill those gaps that are left by Donald and Wagner too. So yeah, hopefully they turn into guys like oh my God, the Texans defensive guy they drafted last season. He won defensive. Who?
D'Amico Ryans, the coach?
The defensive guy they drafted last season.
The Rams?
No, the Texans.
Oh,
defensive rookie of the year. Right?
Yeah, out of Alabama.
Yeah, exactly. So they bring it.
It's like, you know their name until you ask me their name. I said his name yesterday to my buddy. I was
defensive rookie of the year, Will Anderson Jr. There we go.
Will Anderson, yeah,
yeah. So you hope that those guys, Fisk and Verse, become those guys. Like, they become that effective during the season that they are in the running for defensive player of the years, because now you need to bolster that defense like they did last year. But I do love that take about Stafford, and he's got weapons. Kyren Williams and Puka Nacua are only going to get better. Cooper Kupp's going to be as reliable as he can be, barring any injury. So I like that. I've still got them in number 2 though, and I got the 49ers winning it. I know the Super Bowl hangover is a thing. I know that from being a fan of the Bears back in 2007. I know how much that can take a toll on people, and all this all this, like, just like some bad decisions on Kyle Shanahan's part. Is Brock Purdy going to continue his consistency that he has had the last couple of years? I just love the offense on the 49ers. I love it, man. They have so many damn weapons. There's only one ball, but they make it work. George Kittle is a damn good tight end and one of the top guys there, but he loves to block. He loves to run block. Like, when do you get that from a tight end where he's like, yeah, I don't really care about getting touchdowns. I care about hitting a person so my running back can get through to get a touchdown. CMC, right? Like, all these guys, like, he wants to hit people. And yet on top of that, he can still catch the ball, make plays. We saw his production in the playoffs too, how much he kind of emerged, like he was absent one game and then all of a sudden he broke out the next game. And we were talking about George Kittle won this game or whatever. He made a huge impact on the game. So I just love the offense on the 49ers side. I love it more than the Rams. Sorry. And the consistency is there. Deebo Samuel, Brandon Aiyuk, George Kittle, CMC, Brock Purdy being the quarterback now for a third year in a row, under the same head coach, running the same offense. The consistency is there. And I really do think it's going to be similar to the Chiefs in the AFC as it'll be for the 49ers in the NFC, especially the West. They're just going to keep rolling through as long as everyone stays healthy and as long as they're kind of keeping their eyes on the prize of the Super Bowl.
There's a lot of ifs, and Trent Williams isn't. I mean, you're hoping that gets dealt with pretty quick.
We saw the 5-game stretch without Trent Williams too. That was a big.
I mean, he's 36 years old. I mean, the holdout might not be a big deal when you're CeeDee Lamb. I mean, you start to wonder, like, I hope this guy's working out and stuff because he's 36 years old, and the Rams. As good as the Niners were last year, the Rams only had, on average, 30 less yards per game. So the margin is not huge between the two. But that is the margin between first and seventh. So 49ers were first. Detroit had 2 yards less per game at second. Then Miami, Dallas, Buffalo, Baltimore, Rams. But that whole group right there is all just like good enough offenses to go to the Super Bowl, in my opinion.
Yeah, 100%. I love it. The more we talk about this kind of reminding me of the AFC South where we were like, the Titans, fuck it, you never know, right? Like, it's just, this is what we talk about or what people talk to college players about is like, only the best of the best go to the NFL. We're making arguments for every single team on here. The number 4 team on each of us for the NFC West have a fuck ton of players on the offense. They've still got like weapons. Like, these are the best of the best. And yet somehow they end up with like a 4-13, 4-14 record, whatever it is. It's just like, how? These guys are awesome.
This is probably one of my favorite comments on this channel ever. Matthew Stafford was so good that the Lions sucked and nobody thought to blame the quarterback. There's like,
oh, fuck. Sorry. Where was it?
That's it. But
there you go.
The level of truth in that is just out of this world. Like, what a great comment. I mean, and it's like, how many people can say that about a team that sucks for a decade, but you never once think that it's the quarterback. Like, not
it was everyone except for Stafford and Megatron. It was everyone except those two guys. So
I don't think there's any other team in my lifetime that has sucked for that long that you knew the quarterback was solid.
Yeah, you're like, no, they don't need to make a change of quarterback like whatsoever. They've got their fucking quarterback. All right.
That leaves one less division, and I'm sure Bill is ready for it. Here's his comment. Okay, I'm ready for the East. Go ahead and kill me.
Kyle, who do you have at number 4 coming in last in the NFC Beast division?
NFC Beast.
We'll say it at the same time. 3, 2, 1. Giants. Bill, I'm sorry.
I hate this position.
I know.
That you put me in. Our best supporter. Like I said, this is our top donor. I feel like I'm being a bad. I'm paid for. My opinions aren't authentic. My opinions have been paid for. I have big donors on this.
Oh, shit.
But I don't know. I think there's 3 teams that are headed in a much better direction.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when you look at the Giants, it's all about Daniel Jones and how good he's going to be, the $40 million a
Yep.
year man. And Bill makes the point that that was a lot of money last year, but this year it's not as much money, but it's still more money than he deserves.
Yep.
Daniel Jones has to go out there and play out of this world. And we saw in the preseason, he started underthrowing players and throwing interceptions right away. Like, what are you
Mhm.
doing? Especially with his beard. I mean, he grows the beard and you're thinking, well, maybe this will be the thing that changes his luck. He just needed
Yeah.
to kind of form a new identity, but that didn't help either.
Mhm.
Malik Neighbors, the addition is solid. Now, I will say
Mhm.
the offensive line is better. This is one of the best defensive fronts in the NFL, if not the best
Yeah.
defensive front in the NFL.
It's very
Um,
good.
Defensively, they're going to be really good. Um, Saquon Barkley's gone, and he's
Mhm.
with another team in the NFC East. So, um, if they had a better quarterback, this would be a entirely different conversation. Um, but I just don't think it helps. And I think the other teams, I mean, I would be really lying if I said I thought, any of those other 3 teams finished fourth.
Yeah, I really the only one I can make even a slight argument for is the Commanders, because if we're being real, the Commanders defense nowhere near as good as the Giants defense is going to be.
But then now they have Dan Quinn.
But they have Dan Quinn. Exactly. It's such a hard one, and because they have a rookie quarterback, I already think Jaden Daniels is better than Danny Dimes. I really do already. Like, it just,
I do too.
you know.
But he was my favorite quarterback. Remember during all the draft
Yes.
and stuff. So like,
Yes.
my opinions haven't changed that much. I'm a
Mhm.
little higher on some quarterbacks now. But
He's a little higher.
but yeah, I'm with you. Like, I think right
Yeah.
now, if I'm starting a franchise and you give me 2 options, Daniel Jones or Jaden Daniels, even though they both have Daniel in their name, I'm
Yeah.
going with Jaden Daniels.
If you give me Jaden Daniels or Daniel Jones, I'm thinking, why are those the only options? I'm going Jaden Daniels every
Between that or
time.
Muhammad.
Yeah, why is it between that or Mohamed? I've got the Giants too, man, at fourth. It's for all the things you said. This defensive line is going to be outstanding. Kayvon Thibodeau, Brian Burns, Dexter Lawrence, Bobby Okereke at linebacker. And then you look at the wide receivers: Malik Neighbors, Wandale Robinson, Jalen Hyatt, Darius Slayton. Like, this wide receiver room is outstanding. And you said it, right? The offensive line too is improved. It's just, who is behind that offensive line? Who is it? It's unfortunately Daniel Jones. And maybe Drew Lock gets a couple starts here and there. Maybe he has to come in at some point. Either way, the quarterback room is not something I trust. I don't think anybody is trusting that quarterback room. And I think the Giants, unfortunately, Bill, are going to have the number 1 overall pick in the draft next season. I think they go Carson Beck or Quinn Ewers, whoever has the better season, whoever doesn't get injured. I think they're going to be in line for a top 2, top 3 pick. And at least next year, Bill, we can all be talking about our new quarterbacks. You know what I mean? So we can all be doing that. But the defense and the wide receiver room on the Giants, fucking mint. Fucking mint. It's just they can't compete with the Eagles and the Cowboys. And really, with the direction that the Commanders are going, they may win one against the Commanders just based off of defensive veteran leadership there and how good those guys are. I just don't think they can get third place here in this division.
Yeah, I don't either. But my number 3 is going to
Uh-oh. 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 Say it. Say it. Say
I'm going to
it.
go with the Commanders at 3.
All right.
I'm tempted to put Dallas here.
You're scaring me. You're scaring me.
I'm tempted to put Dallas here because
You're crazy.
I'm Dallas. Who do they have?
Everyone. They've got everybody. Micah Parsons, CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah.
Goddamn running backs are a joke. We'll get in front of that.
Gone.
Gallup is gone. Yeah.
I mean, Brandon Cooks.
Brandon Cooks is gone too, I thought.
Yeah. So who do they have? Who's stepping in?
Let's see. I'm gonna look at their depth chart.
CeeDee Lamb versus the world.
Brandon Cooks is still there. Jalen Tolber. Exactly.
So
Jake Ferguson?
What'd you say?
Jake Ferguson at tight end? He did really well last year.
Like they're gonna win games, but I think they might win 8 or 9, not 11 or 12.
Wow, really? Okay.
I do think so. And you know what? This is not on Mike McCarthy or Dak Prescott. You cannot expect to win when you do absolutely nothing all offseason. They didn't make any moves for any free agents. They said they were going all in, and then they proceeded to do nothing besides get Ezekiel Elliott to come back and yesterday get Dalvin Cook.
They brought Zeke back. Let Zeke eat, dude.
I just you look at the Commanders and it's like, man, they made moves, right? They got Austin Eckler. They have Terry McLaurin.
Yeah.
I don't love the move to move Jahan Dotson to a rival
to the Eagles. Yeah.
But I really wonder what the Cowboys are doing and why they are not worried about it. And they're basically doing what the Chiefs did with Mahomes, where it's like, we got rid of Tyreek Hill. We're getting rid of everybody because you're good enough to just win. And you're asking Dak Prescott to be that. Yeah. And I don't know if I know that he's a really good quarterback, but I don't know if he's that. And that is kind of fair. The situation that Dak is going to be in this year. And I think also when you win 12 games in back-to-back years, you start to just get used to going with the Cowboys to be second or first. But these things don't last forever. And one of the ways they come to an end is when you do nothing in the offseason. And I just think that's the situation they put Dak in. And Dak's going to get paid the record-breaking amount of money next year to perhaps play with the Giants. It's going to be a different team. But the thing is this has nothing to do with Dak. This isn't his fault. The team really let him down this offseason. And those Roosters are coming home to crow. I like the Commanders and where they're at. That's the temptation to switch it. But I'll leave the Cowboys at 2 for now. And I'll put the Commanders in just because rookie quarterback, new head coach, a lot of new stuff going on. Austin Eckler. Is he old? I mean, he's only 30, but what version of him are we going to get? Is he going to stay healthy? But overall, I actually like the moves the Commanders have made. I think they're heading in a great direction right now. And I would not be surprised if they end up second in this division.
Okay. I think I can get down with that. I still got the Commanders at 3rd, though. Just looking at their defense, I mean, they got Darren Payne. They paid him last season. Really good signing on the interior there for defensive tackle. Bobby Wagner, again, we talked about him. He's getting older. He's not necessarily putting up the numbers he was with the Seahawks and for a year, the Rams. That's kind of it. Mike Sainris still fucking nickelback. So he's pretty damn good. And then we look at the offense for the Commanders. Jaden Daniels, rookie. Brian Robinson and Austin Eckler sharing that running back room. Yeah, Austin Eckler, is he older? Possibly. Brian Robinson Jr., can he take that next step to be RB1? We'll see.
Yeah.
Terry McLaurin, I love that. They brought in Noah Brown, too, after the Texans had cut him. So they brought in Noah Brown. Or was it Noah Brown? Yeah, it was, right? Noah Brown, that's who they got. The Texans got rid of.
Jack.
I'm gonna double check. Yeah, because who's he on? Yeah, it was Noah Brown. No. Oh shit. Yeah, it was Noah Brown. Houston. He was on there last year. To kind of have that wide receiver number 2 after they get rid of Dotson and they send them to a division rival, which was a stupid move. They brought in Zach Ertz, a tight end. I kind of like this. It's just the biggest question mark, and one of the reasons why I have them coming in third is they're probably going to win some games, and it's probably going to be because Jaden Daniels is running the ball himself, is providing that extra offense with his feet. Because unless we see just a massive improvement on the offensive line from the Commanders this year, same thing's going to happen to him that happened to what's his name, the quarterback from last year on the Commanders. He's going to get sacked a shit ton, going to get hurt, going to have the backup come in, things like that. Dan Quinn, I love him on the defense. I do. And he might be able to bring out a lot from what little he has on the defensive side. So, maybe he can do that. Maybe he can probably increase the production from the defensive side because he is a defensive coach, and we've seen that happen. But that's why I got the Commanders at 3. I love Jane Daniels, rookie quarterback, though, new head coach. This is all kind of a brand new environment for both of these guys. And until they get on the same page and you see maybe like 7, 8, 9 games in where now it's starting to flow a little bit better, those first 7, 8 weeks might be one of those like win one, lose one, win one, something like that.
Well, even Jalen Hurts, like think about when he was drafted, he wasn't supposed to be the guy. It was like people were so mad. Eagles fans were like, "What are you doing? Why would you draft Jalen Hurts?"
Yeah.
And his quarterback coach was a big reason for his success.
Mm-hmm.
And that was Brian Johnson, who turned Jalen Hurts into what you saw the year they went to the Super Bowl. And then after who's their offensive coordinator that they lost? The Cardinals.
Gannon.
Well, yeah, they lose Rich Gannon, and then
Jonathan Gannon.
Like, I guess Brian Johnson is going to be the offensive coordinator now,
mm-hmm.
and it didn't work out. But we know that he is definitely. It makes sense that the Eagles would have put him in because he's big reason that Jalen Hurts became what he became, and then the Commanders announced Brian Johnson as the team's assistant head coach and offensive pass game coordinator. So although you have Dan Quinn, a defensive coach, you look at the hires of the coaching staff and you love them. You're like, these guys have a resume of having success with young quarterbacks. So I think Jaden Daniels is in a really good room. Yeah, I think the Commanders could work right away, and I like their coaching staff all around. I thought they did a really good job putting together. Dan Quinn did a good job. You can tell he's been in the league for a long time to be able to put together such a great coaching room.
Yeah, and we'll see how the season goes because I can absolutely see new coaching, new quarterback, a complete turn of the page from the past work out into great things that they can be the Texans of this year from last year, right? The Texans of last year, they could be the Texans this year. That would be honestly kind of cool because DeMeco Ryans, Quinn, both defensive head coaches, bringing in the number 2 overall pick of a quarterback. You never know. You've got Cowboys.
Nick's on a roll today. The Cowboys had a politician's offseason promise big things, make a deal that was going to happen anyway, claim the victory. It's like spot on again. Hilarious. But yeah, at number 1, I got the Eagles. I think the Eagles are due for a huge season. They drafted really well. They added talent to a very talented roster. They took 2 corners that were the top 2 corners in the draft class. They bring in Vic Fangio. I can't speak high enough of what he's going to do to the defense. The Eagles should be eyeing the Super Bowl. There's nothing about them that they're really lacking right now.
Nick Sirianni.
The pass their pass rush was when they went to the Super Bowl, their pass rush was amazing. Last year, it's a huge step back. But I think this year, Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith, I think these guys are going to take a big step. The Eagles have one of the most talented teams in the NFL. Like the Jets, the Eagles, and the 49ers are in the Lions are all kind of in a league of their own with the amount of talent that they have on that team. So I'm going to go with the Eagles number 1, and it makes the Packers-Eagles Week 1 game wildly exciting.
Yeah, I like it.
Oh, Rick's real excited.
Sorry, I'm an old man. I'm an old man. I'm gonna fuck the Packers. I'm gonna say something that's gonna piss you off, Kyle. The Cowboys are gonna win the division for the second year in a row. For the first time since the early 2000s in the NFC East, the Cowboys are gonna win it. They're gonna win it, dude. They're gonna win it. Contract year for Dak. Mike McCarthy offense last season was outstanding. We were talking about Dak Prescott as an MVP type player middle of the year last year. The Eagles coming off a bomb of the last half of the season last year. Nick Sirianni's still there. There's questions surrounding his coaching methods. Jalen Hurts, still a damn good quarterback, still has A.J. Brown, still has Devontae Smith, brought in Saquon. And yet I still think the Dallas Cowboys and Dak Prescott are still going to win the division.
I was like, okay.
I don't want to hear it. Rams fucking West Division winners. I don't want to fucking hear it with an older quarterback instead of Brock Purdy. I don't want to hear that shit. I don't want to hear it. Everybody's saying I've lost my mind. Bill wants 2 ounces of what I'm smoking. Nick saying Rick on that ABCTE tonight. Look, I can't. You can't deny what the Cowboys did last season. You can't deny it. Is it going to be hard for them to win the division 2 years in a row, like it has been for any NFC East team for the last 20-ish years or so? Yeah, it's going to be difficult. But with Mike McCarthy calling the plays, they finally got out of that funk with Kellen Moore the season prior to last year, the 2022 year. Dak Prescott was looking like an MVP. CeeDee Lamb was targeted and caught more passes than his 2 years prior. I think the running back room again is garbage. What'd you say?
Their offense was good with Kellen Moore. That's my only pushback on that.
Yeah, but it was better with Mike McCarthy. Like, let's be real here. Let's be real. It was better. I mean, Dak was an MVP candidate. We talked about it, right? Like it wasn't like anything. We were just like a hot take or anything. It was like people really did think Dak Prescott had a really good shot at MVP, and we were one of the podcasts that thought so too. One of the people, in the NFL that did as well. So I don't see. I don't know why it's so ridiculous. I honestly like the Eagles winning.
I'll tell you why it's so ridiculous.
Eagles winning is a little crazy to me too.
This is why it's a little crazy. I'm not saying you've lost your mind. They're saying that. You're
laughing in agreement.
I was laughing before they wrote that.
You've all lost your mind. I'm not crazy. You're crazy.
No, because last year is last year. And this is this year. And
put that on a quote card.
You can't be like, oh, the Cowboys were first in the division. They were first in the division last year because the Eagles needed to reload, and they did.
They had a collapse. They had a huge collapse.
Yeah, they lost their offense and their defensive coordinator. And was it Jason Kelce?
Jason Kelce is not on the team this year. He was on the team last year.
Oh, yeah, he was there last year.
Yeah.
That was his last year. But dude, adding Vic Fangio as a defensive coordinator, adding Cooper DeJean, and adding, who's the other one they added? Was it Terrion Arnold? No, he was.
That sounds right.
He was to the Lions, I think.
Eagles draft 2024.
I think the Lions got Terrion Arnold and
Quinyon Mitchell.
Quinyon Mitchell.
Yeah.
Quinyon Mitchell and Terrion Mitchell. Wait.
No, Quinyon Mitchell, Terrion Arnold. But
Terrion Arnold.
The Eagles
Kool-Aid.
got Mitchell and DeJean. Yeah.
Okay. So adding those pieces, adding Vic Fangio, if you just stopped right there, I would be like, yeah, they'll be back. But that's not the end. You added Saquon Barkley.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, I can't just take like, well, Dallas won it last year, so why wouldn't they win it this year? When the year before, the Eagles won it, and the Eagles won it. And although it was not even close, even though the record shows it was close, Jalen Hurts was out week 15, 16, and 17, and then he just came in week 18 because the Eagles were losing and the Cowboys were catching up just to secure that number 1 seed. But it was the Eagles are a totally new team this year, and the moves that they made with a combination of the Cowboys making none.
No, they made one that was an obvious move, and then they claimed victory, dude. That's a great year.
We'll agree to disagree, but Rick got so you got Cowboys, Eagles, Commanders, Giants.
Yeah. Look, I agree with everything you're saying about the Eagles. Bringing in Saquon, especially from a division foe, fucking mint move, man. That's exactly what the Vikings did with Hawkinson, right? Bringing him in for Kirk Cousins, whatever, from the Lions. The Lions were like, "Oh, cool, we'll one up you by bringing in Laporta and him having an amazing, stellar rookie season." Totally fair. Vic Fangio, totally fair. I just it scares me of what happened last year where they beat the Chiefs and then they just fucking took a nosedive. And it's like, okay, was it the lack of coordinators that Nick Sirianni had? If it is, and they're improving on that, okay, that's making a move. That's making an improvement on a very glaring issue last year. It's just like, so does this all depend on Nick Sirianni now? Like, how can Nick Sirianni handle this, right? Because it seems like the Eagles go as Nick Sirianni goes. I'm not saying the product on the field is going to be bad by any means. Also, you got 2 rookie cornerbacks, which is a vast improvement, at least in terms of potential from what you did have, because the cornerbacks lost you games last year, like plain and simple for the Eagles. They were just getting beat at every turn. So again, the potential of those being great. It's just, I like the Cowboys more. I like
Fangio is a proven defensive coordinator.
100%.
Like I was trying to say earlier, like the Cowboys offense was really good under Kellen Moore. And then you're like, oh, well, he didn't work out with the Chargers. Yeah, they didn't have Justin Herbert. They fucking had to
Easton Stick.
Easton Stick was his guy. Now you have Sirianni, right? Who is better when he's just managing the talent. Like, let's be real. Sirianni's not like a Sean Payton or an Andy Reid. He's kind of a guy. He's almost reliant kind of on his coordinators in a way, which is fine if you have Kellen Moore and Vic Fangio as your new hires. I think the Eagles are going to be in great shape. I think they have probably the best offense-defense coordinator combo in the league, along with the talent. And Jalen Hurts was injured last year too. Let's be real. Like, he was dealing with all kinds of injuries. The Eagles are back. They're back. They're going to be good this year. I mean, Jason Kelce should come out of retirement.
I feel like he was thinking about it too.
They just signed that fucking $100 million deal with Spotify or whatever for their podcast. So
yeah, we're next up. That just means the market's growing, baby. We're going to sign a $125 million deal next.
We're next in line. So take as long as you guys need, because the money is only going to get bigger.
All right. So for everybody at home, for the NFC East, Kyle has got the Eagles winning the division, the Cowboys coming in second, the Commanders followed by the Giants. I've got the Cowboys winning the division, the Eagles in second, Commanders third, Giants fourth. For the NFC West, I've got the 49ers winning it, the Rams, Seahawks, and Cardinals following that. Kyle has got the Rams winning the division, followed by the 49ers, Cardinals, and Seahawks. NFC South, Kyle's got the Bucks, winning the division, followed by the Falcons, Panthers, and Saints. I've got the Falcons winning the division, followed by the Bucks, Panthers, and Saints. And for the NFC North, we've both have the Lions coming in first and the Packers coming in second. I've got the Bears in third. Kyle's got the Vikings in third. I've got the Vikings last, and Kyle's got the Bears last because clearly he hates me, which is fine. Whatever. I'm just going to root for all the teams that are going against the Broncos to beat them. Whatever. That's fine.
Hey, I was going to cheer against them.
So those are our NFC conference division predictions.
That was wordy.
Yeah, that was a little too much. You're right. My bad.
That was the only way to say it, though. I guess you could just say NFC predictions.
NFC predictions, division by division, winners, losers, second place, third place, and then losers of the conference, which is the NFC. And we went through the NFC North. No, I'm going to stop. That was too much. So we hope that you guys enjoyed that. And we got a little bit closer. Look, we did a little bit closer to the season, which isn't what we were planning to do. It's just that the last month, there was like so much shit going on. There was like deal being signed, this person holding out, this person holding in, hard knocks, training camp altercations. It was just a lot going on. So we got to it a little late. I was moving, very much so. That was such a pain in the ass. But it's going to be great. Less than a week away from football, Kyle. Less than a week away.
Less than a week away. And for all the new people, check the new signed Javonte Williams jersey.
Let's go.
In the background for the new season, there will not be a Mahomes jersey back there. I'm loving the jerseys. I'm feeling really, really Bronco-y on this side.
I know. I was going to say, like, once I get this set up, which this will be my setup for predictions, for recaps this year, but for game days, it's going to be a little bit different. It's going to you're going to see a recliner. You're going to see my recliner.
Are we going to see your feet?
You might get some feet pics. We'll see. It depends how much Bill pays for them. Bill said, I hope you realize that if the Giants somehow sneak into the postseason, I will be unbearable on this show. I hope they do.
And I hope it happens.
And I hope it happens. So that'll be fun. But Kyle, is it motherfucking time for the motherfucking
Welcome to the Chives with me, Kyle.
That's it.
My chives today is my mom is in a fantasy football league, and
let's go.
She was like, "Can you help me out with drafting?" So I was like, "Yeah." So yesterday I drafted, and this is the first time I drafted in a 14-person league. Okay.
Wow.
There was 14 people in this league, so I'm gonna try to remember the picks for you. So. The thing about 14 is you pick back to back. So I can kind of remember because it's like back to back, and I can remember the waves. So the first wave, I drafted Jahmyr Gibbs and who was the other running back? Well, we just talked about so many players.
Saquon,
Jahmyr Gibbs, and Derrick Henry.
Okay.
Those were, I was like, you need running. I like running backs, so we got running backs out of the way, done. And I was like, I'm not so worried about receivers. A lot of receivers in the league. Then the next wave came through, and something was interesting that I've never done before. I've never flexed a tight end, but I drafted Sam Laporta and Travis Kelce.
What? How the fuck did you get that?
Because it was like just beginning tight end time, and I went back to back, so I snuck them both.
Those are two amazing picks because Sam Laporta is coming off an amazing rookie year that you hope just continues. And then no matter what with Kelsey, like even if he has like a down year, like he can still have a damn good year. You know what I mean? Like there's potential and bad there. Yeah.
That's why I was like, normally you wouldn't flex a tight end, but normally you wouldn't have these two guys. So I was like, well, you start Sam Laporta at the tight end, flex Travis Kelsey, and he'll get you wide receiver numbers. Let's be real. So then the next wave came through, and I got it was T. Higgins, and because I think T. Higgins is going to have a good year. He's on a contract here.
Yeah, yeah.
And Joe Burrow's back. So whatever last year, I think we have a bigger sample size of him being good. It was Jahmyr Gibbs and God, I can't remember the other one, but I got Rome Odunze on my bench.
Ooh, nice.
I got the Jaguars wide receiver Brian Thomas Jr. And who was it? What team was it? It was
running back, or what are we talking about?
It was the second wide receiver I got. It was T. Higgins, and there was one more wide receiver. Hold on one
St. Brown.
I wish. Hold on, I'll do this. Whoa, you're really close.
Puka Nakua. Keenan Allen. Brandon Cooks. Jackson Smith and Jigba.
It was
trying to guess. Nick, that always happens. Someone takes Mahomes in the first round. It's ridiculous.
Okay, here it is. Okay, so quarterback Tua Tagovailoa.
Okay.
Wide receiver Zay Flowers and T. Higgins.
Okay.
Running back, it wasn't Derrick Henry. It was Jonathan Taylor and Jahmyr Gibbs.
Oh.
Travis Kelsey and Sam Laporta. And then my bench was I actually like this bench. So it is Xavier Worthy, Rome Odunze, Brian Thomas Jr., Trey Benson, Nick Chubb, Dalvin Cook, and then Matt Prater and Detroit's defense.
Oh yeah, daddy.
I like that. I like that draft. So I know Bill's drafting pretty soon. I'm going to help him out with his draft. So let me know, Bill, when wow, that is so close. Let me know when you're I feel like a fat head when you are playing video game with the fat heads.
Yeah.
But let me know when you're drafting, Bill, and I'll help you out. I know our league is drafting on Saturday. Tomorrow. So stay tuned for that, but that is my chives today.
Awesome. I love it. Bill, hopefully your draft goes just as well. I know with Kyle helping you out, just like with him helping his mom, it's going to be a pretty damn good draft. But now I know Kyle's strategy, so I'm definitely going to...
That's not it. I wouldn't have shared.
Fuck him up.
Oh, okay. I was like, what?
Tomorrow, but not a bad draft. For the first time your mom being in the league too, like that's a solid lineup right there. I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. Good luck to your mom.
Yeah. I think she's gonna win. It's gonna be awesome.
For sure. Love it. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us on this Friday night. We got a lot of people in, whether it was through YouTube, through Twitter. We got all of our regulars. We got Bill, we got Nick, we got Casey joining as a member of the Only Football fam. So thank you guys for joining. And we got a newcomer, Karen. We don't know who Karen's team is yet. They were talking a lot about just like everything we were talking about. So we don't really know who Karen's team is yet. Karen, if you're still here, let us know who your team that you root for is, so we know, kind of have an idea as to what shit to talk about your team, because we got everybody else's team and everybody from X. Thank you so much for joining us. You guys are always great. But please, before you leave, hit that like button on that video, hit that subscribe button, hit that share button. Karen is a Niners fan. There we go. I think this is our first Niners fan, right? Liam was one of them.
One other Niner fan.
Yeah, Liam was one of them. Liam Pesce, right? Like, yeah. So we got another Niners fan.
Niner gang.
Bang, bang, Niner gang. So again, please hit that like button on the video, on Twitch, on X, on YouTube, whatever it is you're doing. Hit subscribe, become a member of the Only Football fam. Only $2.99 a month. Yeah, we're going to start putting some polls up. You get awesome emojis that you can put in the chat. And you get to become a member of the Only Football podcast family, which is always awesome to see you guys always in the stream and in the comments. It's always great to interact with you guys when you guys are in here. It's always a really good time for us, and it shows that you love what Kyle and I are doing, and we could not be more thankful for that, because it was a rough start to this podcast, and then we got all of our regulars, so it was great. But definitely tell your friends about us too if you are enjoying this content. Football season is a week away, so we are going to be on much more often. Karen, any other newcomers? We're usually this is pretty much how the schedule goes. Sunday, stream pretty much all the games in a Sunday Night Football. Monday, stream Monday Night Football. Tuesday, recap the weekly games. Wednesday, we are going to do our predictions for Thursday Night Football and the rest of the week. Thursday Night Football live stream. We are off Fridays and Saturdays because we need some off days, and we like to watch college football just kind of on our own time. And then back at it again on Sundays. So repeat fucking football coming up in less than 1 week. Kyle, I'm so fucking excited, dude.
No, I am too. Ravens, Chiefs. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be awesome. Just to know that it really matters now.
Yeah. Like, these games matter, and the primetime games are just going to be like, I got to look at the slate again for primetime games, but it's going to be amazing. But again, thank you guys. The next time that Kyle and I will both be on this stream together will be Wednesday night. We will finally do our first predictions for the 2024 season. We're going to have a new layout. We're going to have some other new things for you guys. So make sure to tune in on Wednesday. We're going to try to put a post out to give you guys like an exact time for that, so you guys don't miss the intro, the video, the background, just everything coming to this podcast that is brand new, because it is going to be an exciting season 3 of the Only Football podcast. So watch out and tune in Wednesday. Kyle, you got any final words before we get out of here?
No, you can follow. Well, I guess you can follow me on X at. Actually, you can follow me on X at. Oh, it didn't work. Hold on. I gotta go back here and then go back here.
Holy fuck.
No, that's not it. Forget about it. You can follow me at NFL with Kyle, and you can follow me on YouTube at Kyle Kitzman, Kitzman. And good content coming out of there. So, check it out. And I'll see you guys in the next stream.
Yeah, always check out Kyle's videos, because he does a lot of great stuff.
Oh, I see the problem.
I was watching the Ravens interview the other night while I was on the computer doing stuff, and I was like, "This is awesome," because you're just bam, hard-hitting question, bam, hard-hitting question, bam, hard-hitting question. It was great. But you can follow me on X.
There it is.
Hey, there it is. Nice. I like that. I like the little setup. You can follow me on X at @andnowrick, and follow my YouTube page at @YoI'mRick. Now that the season's starting up for the Bears, I'm going to try to do my best to put out Bears content. Probably a lot of shorts, not necessarily like long form video, but a lot of me screaming, yelling at the Bears for sure. So make sure to follow me there at @YoI'mRick on YouTube, and it'll be a great time. And of course, follow our YouTube page here at the Only Football Podcast, as well as on X at Only Football Pod, and on Twitch as well. The football season is upon us, everybody, and it is going to be an amazing time. Kyle, always a good time, brother.
Always a good time.
Super